Chapter 970. Earthless Assessment. What? The Snow Wind Emperor bestowed me the title of Sword King? Not long after Yi Fei left the palace, Jiang Qianren's reward arrived. Yi Fei was depressed. He had done nothing, and he had become a subject of the Snow Wind Empire. Coincidentally, his title in the Snow Wind Empire was still the Sword King. The Snow Wind Emperor had even ordered someone to bestow Yi Fei a Sword King mansion. Of course, since Yi Fei had received such treatment, Bailey Zhen's treatment wouldn't be bad either. The heavenless supreme battle hadn't started yet, and there were already two super geniuses in the Snow Wind Empire who had been bestowed the title of king at the same time. This was something that had never happened in the imperial capital. When the news spread, countless warriors were in an uproar. Yi Fei's fame had also reached its peak in the imperial capital. After all, the king of fighters had personally evaluated him. This added a layer of mystery to Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei would rather not have the title of Sword King. He had no intention of staying in the Snow Wind Empire. Unfortunately, the reward from the Snow Wind Emperor had already been bestowed. The reward from a half-emperor was not something that Yi Fei could refuse just because he said so. He could only accept the identity token that represented the Sword King from the eunuch. Then, he moved into the newly established Sword King mansion with Xia Jun. It was undeniable that the Snow Wind Emperor valued Yi Fei greatly. Not only did he free up a first-class mansion for the Sword King mansion within a day, but he also provided all the maids and servants that he needed. There were even 10 guards of the third level of the Martial Lord realm at the entrance, guarding the door of the prince's residence. Inside the prince's residence, there were also 10 beautiful maids who served Yi Fei's daily needs at all times. Seeing that, the Xia army's saliva even splashed 3,000 feet. Big brother, why don't we stop cultivating during this period of time and enjoy ourselves? Xia Jun suggested seriously. Yi Fei didn't even bother to ask. He knew what Xia Jun was thinking. He kicked Xia Jun and said, "Get lost. The heaven and earth supreme battle is about to start. You still have time to enjoy yourself? Send all the maids and guards back." On the path of martial arts, one had to be undistracted and move forward with indomitable will. The wealth before him wasn't what Yi Fei was after. After saying that, he walked into the cultivation room of the Sword King mansion and continued cultivating. During the battle in the Imperial Palace, Yi Fei felt a huge pressure from Dongfang Yu. With my current strength, I can still put up a fight against a young king warrior. However, the gap between me and a young emperor warrior is still too big. I have to work harder to catch up with these true geniuses. Continue cultivating the eye of lightning punishment. Jiang Qianren was only trying to test Yi Fei. Seeing that Yi Fei didn't accept the gifts, Jiang Qianren wasn't angry. Instead, he nodded to the Beast King and said, "This Yi Fei, it's rare for him to not be tempted by wealth and beauty. How can the son-in-law that I value be weak?" The Beast King was proud of himself. Fatty stood behind the Beast King and pouted. His brother didn't agree to the marriage. However, the Beast King didn't care about these details. After all, the marriage certificate was still in his hands. No matter what the Beast King said, he was right. Yi Fei didn't know that the Beast King had come to the imperial capital. Otherwise, he wouldn't be cultivating. He would be looking for the Beast King to settle the score. Although Bailey Zhen was defeated by Yu Rong and didn't defeat Dongfang Yu, he had forced Dongfang Yu to use all his strength. Once the Battle King Mansion was established, many nobles from the imperial capital came to pay their respects. Compared to Yi Fei, who was a rogue cultivator from the outer sea, the Bailey family was a big family in the Snow Wind Empire. At this moment, many people came to curry favor with Bailey Zhen, giving him all kinds of generous gifts. Bailey Zhen accepted the gifts, but he didn't see anyone. The news of Yi Fei being conferred the title of king shocked Bailey Zhen. "Sword King, what is the Snow Wind Emperor doing? How can he let a mortal be on the same level as a special genius like me?" And that Dongfang Yu, he actually said that Yi Fei could block his punch. Even I couldn't block it. How could he, a mere mortal, block it? Bailey Zhen subconsciously thought that Dongfang Yu was just giving face to the Snow Wind Emperor. Even so, Bailey Jean was still very unhappy. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He raised his head and looked at the sky above the Beast King mansion. Mortal, I won't give you another chance to grow. I will kill you personally in the Earth List assessment. I will let the world know that you are not worthy to be on the same level as me. In the most remote inn in the imperial capital. What? Yi Fei was conferred the title of Sword King? He even defeated the young king who came to challenge him? Lin Tianjiao was shocked when he heard the discussions of the crowd when he came out to eat. Lin Tianjiao had been in the central province for more than a year. He knew what kind of people the young king was. Although he knew that Yi Fei had always been strong, Lin Tianjiao didn't expect that Yi Fei would reach such a terrifying level in just a few years. No wonder he is the only sage king of the north who has inherited the 6 sacred sects. It seems that I have to work hard. Even if I can't surpass him, I can at least catch up with him. Lin Tianjiao was very proud. The training in the central province had made him proud. He was no longer arrogant, but courageous. Lin Tianjiao didn't even eat. He returned to his room and continued to cultivate. A month passed quickly in the hustle and bustle of the imperial capital. In the blink of an eye, Yi Fei had been in the central province for 2 years. Yi Fei had undoubtedly grown a lot. He had also matured a lot. Suddenly, a loud bell rang from the direction of the imperial palace. It resounded throughout the imperial capital and woke up all the cultivators who were still immersed in cultivation. In the warlord mansion, Bailey Jean opened his eyes. The demonic flame on his body was even more terrifying. It was like the 9 serenities hell. One look at it and people would be unable to extricate themselves. After a month of cultivation, I finally got rid of the influence of Dongfang Yu's punch. Dongfang Yu, I may not be as good as the young emperors now, but my bloodline still has great potential. Once this potential is stimulated, I will definitely embark on the path of becoming an emperor. The next time I meet you, I will not be defeated again. Boom! The demonic flame on his body disappeared completely. Bailey Jean was no longer as arrogant as before. However, the invisible aura he emitted was even more daunting than before. Yes, Bailey Jean had improved. One failure couldn't defeat him. Instead, it stimulated him to improve even more crazily. Creak! In the inn, Lin Tianjiao pushed open the door with heavy steps. With every step he took, the ground would tremble. In a month's time, I, Lin Tianjiao, have finally broken through from LV10 Martial King realm to LV3 Earth Thorough realm. Although my realm isn't stable yet, I must participate in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking. This may be my only chance to catch up with Yi Fei. Chapter 971. The 4 Sacred Courts. Just like Lin Tianjiao, Jiang Cheng, Lin Ying, and many other warriors of the Snow Wind Empire quickly left their cultivation rooms and gathered in the direction of the Imperial Palace. Sword King Manor. Xia Jun shouted, "Big brother, come out quickly. I've finally comprehended the heavenly blade art in this month. I feel like I'm invincible. Is that so? Shall we spar?" Yi Fei walked out and beckoned Xia Jun with his finger. Xia Jun immediately waved his hand and said, "Don't. I'm talking about being invincible. There's still a long way to go." "All right, big brother, what's up with that vertical eye on your forehead?" Xia Jun had never seen Yi Fei use such a secret technique before. Yi Fei realized that he had been too focused on cultivating the eye of lightning punishment that he had forgotten to close his vertical eye. After all, activating the eye of lightning punishment required a large amount of true origin energy. After about an hour, Yi Fei and Xia Jun finally arrived at the palace. There was already a sea of people there. Just the number of supreme experts was around 70 to 80,000 people. Without exception, all of them were young cultivators below the age of 40. According to the rules of the Sacred Court, only cultivators below the age of 40 had the qualifications to enter the Sacred Court to cultivate. With so many people gathered together, they naturally had their own small circles. When Yi Fei arrived, he saw someone waving at him. It was Jiang Cheng. He was squeezed into the crowd, and beside him were many young cultivators from the Royal Wind City. After all, Yi Fei and Xia Jun had both registered in the Royal Wind City. Yi Fei had no reason to not represent the Royal Wind City. The two of them walked over together. Brother Jiang, Brother Yi, Brother Xia. Hello, Sword King. Besides Jiang Cheng, the other young martial artists of Royal Wind City, such as Jiang Fan and Yurang, were all extremely respectful towards Yi Fei. This was the benefit of strength. With Yi Fei's status as a Sword King, even Jiang Cheng had to look up to him. What was strange was that Lining wasn't in the Royal Wind City circle. Instead, she was in a small circle in a neighboring royal city. She stared at Yi Fei with eyes filled with hatred. Little did he know that Yi Fei and Jiang Cheng had already noticed him. Jiang Cheng sneered and said, Brother Yi, Lining is a narrow-minded person. Last time in the palace, he was the one who instigated discord and wanted to harm you. It seems that after being taught a lesson, he still hasn't given up his evil intentions. He's just a clown. It's fine if he doesn't cause trouble, but if he dares to provoke us, there's no need for Big Brother to do anything. I'll kill him with a single slash, Xia Jun said in an imposing manner. Jiang Cheng looked at Xia Jun and then at Yi Fei in surprise. Yi Fei nodded slightly and said, Xia Jun only needs one slash. After all, Lin Ying's strongest technique was the heavenly blade art, and it was only half of it. However, Xia Jun had the complete heavenly blade art, and he had even fully comprehended it. Lin Ying was naturally no match for Xia Jun. With Yi Fei's current realm, he didn't need to treat Lin Ying as an opponent. His opponents were Bailey Zhen and Dongfang Yu. Yi Fei looked at Bailey Zhen, who was surrounded by many people in the distance. Bailey Zhen also saw Yi Fei, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He was about to walk out of the room with big strides. Many martial artists near the palace suddenly shouted excitedly, They're out. The Emperor and the mentors of the Saint Institute are out together. When Bailey Zhen heard this, he immediately ignored Yi Fei and strode to the front, trying to leave a good impression on the mentors of the four Saint Institutes. Mentors of the Saint Institute. Are the mentors of the Saint Institute presiding over the Earth Roll examination this time? Yi Fei looked at the restless crowd in surprise. Jiang Cheng smiled and said, That's not the case. The Saint Institute has a tradition. Once a special bloodline is discovered, a mentor will come to receive it. They're here for Bailey Zhen. Of course, with Brother Ye's talent, the Saint Institute will definitely value you. After saying this, Jiang Cheng and the martial artists of the Royal Wind City knelt down together. Xia Jun hesitated for a moment, but also knelt down. After all, when the Emperor came out, his subjects had to kneel down. This represented the dignity of the royal family, and no one dared to go against it. Greetings to the Emperor. Long live the Emperor. Long live the Emperor. Inside and outside the palace, 70 to 80,000 young martial artists knelt down at the same time. It was a spectacular scene. Only two people stood out among the crowd, and they were still standing. This instantly attracted the attention of the mentors of the four Saint Institutes. Bailey Zhen's eyes were cold and arrogant. He met the gazes of the four mentors without any fear, even though they were all half-martial emperors. Yi Fei's gaze was also very calm. He had already seen martial emperors, not to mention half-martial emperors. What was there to be afraid of? The four mentors all had the symbol of their respective Saint Institutes. The Heavenly Tao Sacred Institute's mentor was a middle-aged man wearing battle armor. He carried a heavy sword on his back, and he looked imposing without being angry. The Heavenly Book Sacred Institute's mentor was a stern middle-aged woman. She wore a magic robe, and her expression was rigid. Even if she didn't say a word, everyone could feel her strictness. However, the strongest one was still the Divine Martial Sacred Institute's mentor. He was a man with an imposing aura. His gaze was as sharp as a knife, and he looked at everyone with a scrutinizing gaze. The mentors of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Institute and the Heavenly Book Sacred Institute were slightly behind him to show their respect. On the other hand, the true Martial Sacred Institute's mentor surprised everyone. Unexpectedly, she was a very young and beautiful female mentor. Her chi was like an orchid in a secluded valley. She gave off an amiable feeling, but for some unknown reason, she looked a little worried. The other three mentors didn't say anything to her on the way, as if they didn't want to see her. After everyone had greeted each other, the Snow Wind Emperor didn't let them stand up. He made them kneel outside. At the same time, he pointed at Bailey Jun and Yi Fei and introduced them to the four mentors. Everyone, this is Bailey Jun, a genius of the Snow Wind Empire who has a special bloodline. Even Dongfang, you would have to use his full strength to defeat him. The Snow Wind Sovereign smiled. He had paid a huge price to invite Dongfang Yu over. It was all for the sake of creating momentum and letting the four great saint courtyards know how powerful the Snow Wind Empire's special bloodline was. When they heard that Bailey Jun was able to force the young emperor to use his full strength, the mentors of the four saint institutes looked at Bailey Jun with interest. Not bad, not bad. The demonic flame bloodline is a mid-tier bloodline among the special bloodlines. If he is nurtured well, Bailey Jun will become a powerful martial emperor in the future. The Heavenly Tao Sacred Institute's mentor commented. Unfortunately, he won't be able to receive a punch from Dongfang Yu. The most important thing for a cultivator is talent. Talent is innate, everything else can be made up for. If he wants to join the Divine Martial Sacred Institute, he'll have to work hard. The Divine Martial Sacred Institute's mentor commented. He is a good seedling. His demonic flame bloodline is very suitable for a secret technique of the Heavenly Book Sacred Institute. The Heavenly Book Sacred Institute's mentor revealed a rare smile. When the true Martial Sacred Institute's mentor saw that the other three Saint Institutes were trying to snatch Bailey Jun, she suddenly sighed and lowered her head. She was too lazy to comment on Bailey Jun. The Snow Wind Emperor didn't mind. After all, the three mentors had acknowledged Bailey Jun's talent. The Snow Wind Empire could hold its head high. Chapter 972. A Single Log Bridge. Oh, Yi Fei? The mentors' interest was piqued. They had already noticed the black-clothed youth who was standing, just like Bailey Jun. It was just that Bailey Jun's radiance was too dazzling. The first thing they noticed was a special genius like Bailey Jun. The mentors of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy glanced at Yi Fei. Yi Fei seemed to have sensed it and looked over as well. Good sword. Yi Fei instantly sensed how extraordinary this teacher's heavy sword was. What was even more mysterious was that after hearing Yi Fei's praise, the heavy sword on the teacher's back actually hummed, as though it was filled with joy at Yi Fei's praise. The teacher from the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy was instantly given a fright. He can actually trigger my heavy sword? Could it be that this brat has already grasped the sword heart? What? Sword heart? Impossible. Yi Fei doesn't have any special bloodline in his body. How can he be compared to Bailey Jun? The mentor of the Divine Martial Academy snorted coldly. Among the four great academies, the Heavenly Strategy Academy focused on opportunities, the Heavenly Tao focused on comprehension, and the Divine Martial Academy focused on aptitude. Aptitude determined everything. Without aptitude, all the hard work would be in vain. Therefore, the Divine Martial Sacred Academy prioritized those with outstanding talent. Seeing that Yi Fei, who didn't even have a special bloodline, had been boasted by the Snow Wind Emperor that he could compete with Bailey Jun, the instructors of the Divine Martial Sacred Academy were displeased. Guys, don't underestimate Yi Fei. Look carefully. Although Yi Fei doesn't have any special bloodline, he can fight someone 5 levels higher than him. Most importantly, the king of fighters, Dongfang Yu, said that Yi Fei could take a punch from him with all his strength. Jiang Qianren said again, reminding the instructors by the way. The four of them revealed shocked expressions at the same time. For Dongfang Yu to say this, could it be that this Yi Fei was really extraordinary? The Heavenly Book Sacred Academy's teachers' eyes lit up. He was the first to notice Yi Fei's difference. 10 primordial spirits. This brat actually cultivated 10 primordial spirits at the same time. Good. This brat is quite lucky to enter my Heavenly Book Sacred Academy. Humph. Since he can cultivate 10 primordial spirits, it proves that he has extraordinary aptitude. He can also enter the Divine Martial Sacred Academy, which is the strongest academy in the Divine Martial Sacred Academy. So he won't be buried. Hearing that Yi Fei had 10 primordial spirits, the teachers of the Divine Martial Sacred Academy immediately changed their attitude. 10. Primordial spirits. The eyes of the mentors of the real martial sacred academy, who didn't speak, also lit up. But before this beautiful mentor could speak to snatch it, a cold snort rang out from the mouth of the teacher of the sacred academy. "Umph, all of you stop arguing. Have you not noticed that Yi Fei's path is the sword Dao? Since he understands a sword heart, cultivating the heavenly Dao sword canon is his best choice. Otherwise, the heavenly law sword codex is not the strongest sword Dao. He and Bailey Zhen should both join my Xinwu Sacred Academy so that they won't bury their talent. The man from the Xinwu Sacred Academy is very domineering. As soon as he opened his mouth, he wanted to take away all of them. This time, even the beautiful teacher revealed an angry expression. Snow Wind Emperor Jiang Qianren was pleased with the quarrel between the mentors of the 4 divine martial academies. After all, the fiercer the quarrel between the 4 divine martial academies, the more extraordinary the martial artists of the Snow Wind Empire were. This was also a way to promote the prestige of the empire. Jiang Qianren wanted them to quarrel as fiercely as possible. Get up. You are the elites of the empire. The Heaven and Earth Supreme list is the best stage for you to train yourselves. Don't let me down. Open the Earth board. The 4 mentors quarreled in the distance. Jiang Qianren waved his hand, and a huge small world light gate appeared in the sky above the imperial palace. Only now did Yi Fei know that the Earth ranking examination this time was actually being held in a small world. The Central Plains empires were truly extravagant. Brother Jiang, let's go. Yi Fei and Jiang Cheng looked at each other and led a large group of experts from the Royal Wind City into the small world. The other royal cities did the same. Soon, the 70 to 80,000 martial artists in the square of the imperial palace had all disappeared. Then, countless crystal walls rose from the ground, revealing the situation inside the small world. All the civil and military officials, including Jiang Qianren, held their breaths and watched the Earth Board assessment with rapt attention. Who do you think will get first place on the Earth Board? Will it be Bailey Zhen or Yi Fei? I think it will be Yi Fei. Bailey Zhen couldn't take a punch from Dongfang Yu, but Yi Fei said that he could. So Yi Fei should be stronger than Bailey Zhen. What a joke. Did we see him make a move? Maybe he was just bluffing. Dongfang Yu gave the emperor face and didn't expose him. He was just flattering him. We still don't know who will win. After all, Yi Fei hadn't fought with Dongfang Yu personally. Not only did many civil and military officials have doubts about Yi Fei's strength, but even the mentors of the 4 sacred academies had doubts about Yi Fei's strength. If Yi Fei can really fight to a draw with Bailey Zhen, it won't be a problem for him to join the Divine Martial Sacred Academy. Even if he's a little bit weaker with his understanding of the Sword Dao, it's more suitable for him to cultivate the Heavenly Law Sword Canon. The Heavenly Law Sacred Academy has many secret techniques that consume a lot of true yuan. If he has 10 primordial spirits, he can cultivate them. Sigh. The beautiful mentor's eyes dimmed. She didn't have much hope in recruiting Bailey Zhen and Yi Fei. The true Martial Sacred Academy was no longer the same as before. It was too difficult to attract super geniuses. Sister, don't worry. Even if Big Brother doesn't want to join the true Martial Sacred Academy, I, Xia Jun, will definitely join. After rushing into the small world, Xia Jun cheered up and waved his arms as if he had been injected with chicken blood. Many martial artists looked at him with sidelong glances. Brother Xiaoyu, Jiang Cheng, and the others were shocked speechless. After all, the great emperor and the mentors of the 4 sacred academies were watching outside. Yi Fei's face darkened. He really wanted to kick Xia Jun away. No one will think you're mute if you don't talk. It's so embarrassing to have such a follower. Then, Yi Fei noticed a huge arena in the distance. He knew that was the place of the Earth Board examination. However, to get to the arena, they had to cross a single plank bridge. At this moment, the 70 to 80,000 young martial artists were all staring at the single plank bridge. However, no one dared to take the lead. Instead, some of them stared at Bailey Zhen, while the others stared at Yi Fei. Jiang Cheng explained, Brother Yi, this is the first stage of the Earthbore examination, the single plank bridge. If we rush over, we can enter the arena. However, the single plank bridge can only carry 10,000 people. If there are more than 10,000 people, it will break on its own. Doesn't that mean that 90% of the 70 to 80,000 martial artists here will be eliminated in the first stage? Yi Fei and Xia Jun were both surprised. Jiang Cheng smiled and said, "It's not absolute. As the top prodigies of the imperial capital, you and the 5 great prodigies have the right to cross the bridge first. This is a form of respect for the super geniuses. Moreover, you can bring people over. As long as it doesn't exceed 10 people, the others can accept it. We can bring people." Chapter 973. Cruel competition. While Yi Fei was talking to Jiang Cheng, Bailey Zhen, who was at the front, was already walking towards the single plank bridge. Of course, there were 10 young martialists beside him. These warriors' families had sent gifts to Bailey Zhen, so Bailey Zhen had done them a favor and helped them pass the first round of the assessment. Despicable. Shameless. This is the privilege of being a special genius. If you're not convinced, why don't you become a special genius too? Although some people were dissatisfied with Bailey Zhen's actions, most of them still silently agreed with his actions. Besides Bailey Zhen, Xue Wushang, Jiang Xiaoma, and the other 4 elite martialists also led 10 people and lined up to cross the single plank bridge. Yi Fei still didn't move. His eyes were constantly scanning the martialists nearby, hoping to find Lin Tianjiao. Unfortunately, he didn't find him. It wasn't easy to find one person among 70,000 martialists. Yi Fei couldn't help but sigh. He knew that Lin Tianjiao was probably avoiding him on purpose. After all, Lin Tianjiao was too proud and didn't want to accept help from others. Sigh. Lin Tianjiao, since he wants to use his own strength to pass the Earth Roll assessment, I can only respect his choice. I hope he can pass smoothly. Brother Jiang, shall we go over? Yi Fei finally looked at Jiang Cheng and said. Jiang Cheng didn't refuse. If they could pass safely, no one would be foolish enough to fight over it. After all, there were 70,000 martialists there. If they weren't careful, they could fail miserably. In the end, Jiang Cheng led the 8 elite martialists from the Royal Wind City, as well as himself and Xia Jun, and followed Yi Fei across the single plank bridge. Boom! When Yi Fei finally crossed the bridge, the martialists around the single plank bridge erupted with terrifying auras. Kill! I must pass the Earth List assessment this year. I will kill anyone who dares to stop me. Kill my ass. The Earth List assessment prohibits killing. Whoever passes will depend on their own ability. We won't let them pass. Boom! Boom! For the right to cross the bridge, tens of thousands of cultivators drew their swords and sabers and hacked at each other. This was no longer a competition of strength. At the same time, luck was also very important. Some of the stronger martial artists who might have been able to cross the single plank bridge might have stumbled in this chaotic battle and lost the chance to pass. Naturally, there were also some weak martial artists who could take advantage of the chaos and rely on their amazing luck to obtain the opportunity to rush onto the single plank bridge. This kind of slaughter continued for a full day. After a day, it didn't matter if the single plank bridge had reached its limit or not. With a loud boom, it broke into pieces. Many of the tens of thousands of warriors who were still fighting bravely couldn't help but shed tears. Why? Why is it that after cultivating for 30 years, I still can't pass the single plank bridge that is the Earth rankings? This test is unfair. The heavens are unfair. After decades of bitter cultivation, in the end, it was all for naught. Sad, sad, sad. Let me go. I want to step onto the single plank bridge. I want to become a genius. I want to be #1 in the world. Ha 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 ha. The Earth rankings test was too important to the Snow Wind Empire's test. The degree of competition was even more brutal than the imperial examinations. Out of the 70 to 80,000 young martial artists, only 3,000 were able to cross the single plank bridge in the end, not 10,000. This caused a total of 7,000 vacancies. This scene made Yi Fei's heart jump. He couldn't help but worry about whether Lin Tianjiao could pass the first test. Then, Yi Fei began to pay attention to the martial artists who crossed the single-plank bridge. He discovered that all of them had a happy expression, as if they had passed the Grand Scholar exam. On the other side of the single-plank bridge, countless martial artists were either cursing, in pain, or in grief. There were even a few martial artists who had hopes of rushing onto the single-plank bridge, but due to time constraints, they were unable to do so. The strong blow made them go crazy on the spot. They cried, laughed, and quarreled on the other side. But no one pitied them. Here, everyone was a competitor. Moreover, the road of martial arts was full of surprises. Without a firm heart, it was useless for these people to pass the first test. Not bad, not bad. There are actually 3,000 people who passed the first test. Seems like my Snow Wind Empire still has a lot of talents, haha. Although only 3,000 people passed the test, the Snow Wind Emperor still laughed. The surrounding civil and military officials also laughed. One must know that only 2,000 people passed the last Earth Rankings test. This was the lowest result among all the empires. Your Majesty, let's start the second test as soon as possible. The mentors of the Divine Martial Academy said impatiently. This time, they were mainly here to pay attention to Bai Lijun's performance. At most, Yi Fei would be included. As for the others, no matter how outstanding their performance was, they wouldn't be able to arouse the mentor's interest. The Sacred Academy never lacked talents. What they lacked was the top geniuses. All right, since the first test is over, let's start the second test. You guys can go in. The Snow Wind Emperor ordered in a deep voice. Suddenly, 3,000 experts of different realms appeared in the Imperial Palace. They all turned into streamers and rushed into the Earth Rankings small world. The second test of the Earth Rankings is a random arena battle. Only those who will pass. Of course, whether you pass or not, you will be an official of my empire. You will be bestowed with the title of a general and command 3,000 soldiers. The empire's cities will be guarded by you. The empire's future will also be controlled by you. Thank you, Your Majesty. Long live the Emperor. Long live the Snow Wind Empire. Jiang Qianren's words immediately made most of the martial artists who passed the second test cheered excitedly. Yi Fei was also a little surprised. Only now did he understand why the young martial artist who failed the first test would lose his composure and even go crazy on the spot. This was the same logic as the test. If you pass the test, you can become an official. If you fail, you will forever be an ordinary person. You will never be able to stand out and your life will be over. The world of martial artists was the same. Only by passing the Earth Rankings could they enter the Sacred Academy. At the very least, they would be able to obtain an official position in the Snow Wind Empire. If they failed, not only would they have no hope of standing out, they might even be abandoned by their own families. The competition of the supreme list of heaven and earth is really cruel. Yi Fei shook his head. Then, he felt the world spinning in front of him. In a moment of carelessness, he was sent to a random arena. There was no one around. After thinking for a while, Yi Fei speculated that this might be an independent space within the small world. It might also be specially designed for the Earth Rankings. Chapter 974. Old enemies meet? Wait, that's not right. Could it be that the second round only involves half-step saints? Yi Fei was secretly shocked. He wasn't afraid if all the cultivators were half-step saints, but he was afraid that Xia Jun wouldn't be able to withstand them. There was also Lin Tianjiao. If he was lucky enough to pass the first round, Lin Tianjiao would definitely be defeated in the second round. After all, Yi Fei wasn't an ordinary genius. The golden-armored general didn't dare to offend him, so he patiently explained, "Young master, ye must be joking. For the second round, we will send out different opponents for different realms. Normally, it will be the same realm. Only special geniuses like young Master Yi will be personally tested by his half-step saints." I see. Hearing this, Yi Fei finally felt relieved. Xia Jun might not be able to deal with a half-step saint, but with Xia Jun's complete mastery of the heavenly blade art, he would be able to sweep through anyone in the same realm. Please. Yi Fei cupped his hands towards the golden-armored general. Please. Seeing Yi Fei being so polite, the golden-armored general bowed. He hurriedly lowered his head and bent his waist. Then he put his hands in front of him and made a gesture of respect. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him and circled behind him. With a bang, the golden-armored general was kicked out of the arena by Yi Fei before he could react. I was tricked. The golden-armored general was extremely depressed. He was a veteran of the battlefield, but he was defeated so easily by Yi Fei's trick. Thank you for letting me win. Yi Fei didn't blush at all. He cupped his hands towards the golden-armored general again before turning around and walking into the light gate. In the square, the Snow Wind Emperor and many other officials were speechless. The teacher of the Heavenly Book Sacred Academy, that rigid, middle-aged woman, faintly revealed a displeased expression. He's clearly strong, so why did he have to play such tricks? He wasn't playing tricks. He was saving face for the general. If he was defeated directly, it would be hard to avoid hurting him. Instead, he used such a small trick. Even if the general was defeated, he wouldn't be too badly affected. The beautiful teacher said with some understanding. Soft-hearted. The teacher of Shenwu's Sacred Academy looked proud and said disdainfully, if Yi Fei joins us, he'll be like the sun in the sky. He's from two different worlds. If he gets hurt, he'll get hurt. It's like stepping on an ant. He doesn't need to care about the feelings of those ordinary people. The teachers of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy didn't say anything, but they nodded. They agreed with the Divine Martial Sacred Academy. Geniuses should act like geniuses. Why should they care about the lives of mortals? However, Bailey Zhen's actions made the mentors of the three sacred academies nod their heads. Bailey Zhen hadn't been courteous to the examiner. He had used a demonic fist technique to severely injure the semi-sage general, causing him to vomit blood and faint. Then, Bailey Zhen also walked into the light door. He came out one step later than Yi Fei. Bailey Zhen frowned and stared at Yi Fei. He said coldly, I didn't expect a mortal like you to be able to reach this step. I underestimated you. You're always calling me immortal. Do you think you're so great? In my eyes, whether it's you or me, we're not much nobler than the beggars at the city gate. Yi Fei said indifferently. Bailey Zhen's arrogant attitude made him very unhappy. Nonsense. The three teachers frowned when they heard Yi Fei's analogy. Jiang Qianren shook his head when he heard this. He thought that Yi Fei was still too young to say such naive words. It's just a battle of words. Yi Fei, you've come at the right time. Since no one is around, do you dare to fight with me? Suddenly, a raging demonic flame appeared on Bailey Zhen's body. He had wanted to kill Yi Fei for a long time, but he hadn't found the opportunity. The earthless small world was the best place for him to kill Yi Fei. You want to fight? Sure, but you have to answer one of my questions first. Then I'll fight you. Yi Fei stepped forward and stared at Bailey Zhen without fear. This was his old enemy. He had to defeat him. However, before he defeated Bailey Zhen, there were some things he had to clarify. Bailey Zhen, why is your Bailey family chasing after Xiao Qiao? What's the relationship between Xiao Qiao and your Bailey family? Yi Fei's face was filled with killing intent, but he didn't speak. He directly used a true essence sound transmission so that others wouldn't be able to hear what he said. Xiao Qiao, you mean that Lingji doll? She's just a spiritual object. Her existence is for us to refine as materials and eat as food. Not only did you not eat her, you even gave her a name? Ridiculous. This is too ridiculous. Is there something wrong with your brain? Bailey Zhen laughed when he heard this. Of course, he still used true Yuan voice transmission. After all, Xiao Qiao's secret was too precious. Bailey Zhen didn't dare to let outsiders know. Shut up. Yi Fei was really angry this time. In the northern region, his younger sister was his reverse scale. In the central continent, Xiao Qiao was his reverse scale. When he thought about how Xiao Qiao, such a young child, had been chased all the way from the central continent to the northern region by the Bailey family, just how many hardships and dangers had she encountered? When he thought of this, Yi Fei felt a raging fire burning in his body. He forcefully suppressed his anger and said loudly, Tell me, why is your Bailey family targeting Xiao Qiao? Is it just because she's a Lingji doll? Of course not. To be honest, I don't know why those old fogies in my family are spending so much effort to hunt her down. I only know that she has a big secret. As long as we can get this secret, our Bailey family may become the strongest family in the central region. Bailey Jin suddenly restrained his killing intent and persuaded Yi Fei seriously. Brother Yi, you and I are both humans. You must know that those who are not of our race will have different intentions. It's just a Lingji doll. Killing it is just like killing a chicken or a dog. What's the difference? If you can't bear to do it, it's the same if you hand it over to me. We can go behind a family's old man's back and refine that Lingji doll into origin pills. Once consumed, the two of us will immediately become the strongest geniuses in the world. Bailey Jean, I told you to shut your stinking mouth. Do you not understand human language? Or are you just an inhumane beast? Yi Fei was thoroughly enraged. He didn't want to hear another word from Bailey Jean. Now, Yi Fei only had one thought in his mind, and that was to kill Bailey Jean. Boom! Hearing Yi Fei's angry shout, Bailey Jean was stunned for a moment. Then, he also became furious. He stopped transmitting his voice and roared like thunder. Yi Fei, what are you saying? Who do you think you are? You're just a mortal. I'm talking to you and persuading you because I think highly of you. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to decide the life and death of others? It doesn't matter if you don't tell me. One day, I will bring your head to the Bailey family and ask them about this matter. Yi Fei's killing intent was like a hurricane, and it quickly enveloped Bailey Jean. He understood that Yi Fei was determined to protect Xiao Qiao. Bailey Jean couldn't understand. Yi Fei was obviously high and mighty. Why would he care about the life and death of an ant? Chapter 975. The Battle of the Pinnacle Kill. Bailey Jean's demonic flames soared to the sky as the terrifying demon god Shadow appeared behind him. The demon god opened its eyes and looked down at Yi Fei coldly. You will regret this. Since you are not willing to hand her over, you will die under my hands together with her. Demon god's fury. The entire minor world suddenly began to tremble. This was how terrifying 50 Li was. A huge devil hand suddenly appeared in the sky, covering half the sky and turning it into a devil land. Many young warriors who were still fighting in the arena felt the space tremble as if it was about to collapse. They were shocked. What's happening? Why do I feel like the pocket dimension is about to be destroyed? It's not the pocket dimension that's about to be destroyed. It's a battle between super geniuses. We have to end the assessment as soon as possible and stop them from destroying the pocket dimension. The half-step saint generals who were in charge of the assessment panicked. If the pocket dimension was destroyed, apart from the super geniuses, even the half-step saints would die. This is my chance. This is my last chance to pass the assessment. Kill. But there were also people who took advantage of the moment when the generals panicked. A young man who was covered in blood and had countless bones broken fearlessly charged towards the general who was in charge of the assessment. The general did not expect that this person would not give up even after being severely injured. He took advantage of the moment when the general was distracted and threw him out of the arena. The anomaly in the pocket dimension did not escape the Snow Wind Emperor's eyes. Although he knew that Yi Fei and Bailey Jean had a grudge against each other, Jiang Qianren did not expect their hatred to be so great that a full-scale conflict would break out during the assessment. Not good. We have to stop them. With their battle strength, they might even destroy the pocket dimension. Jiang Qianren wanted to take action immediately. On one hand, he was worried about the destruction of the pocket dimension. On the other hand, Yi Fei and Bailey Jean were the hope of the Snow Wind Empire. Jiang Qianren did not care about the grudge between the two. He would not allow them to fight before the sky lists sovereign battle and weaken the strength of the Snow Wind Empire. Roar! A huge azure dragon rushed out of Jiang Qianren's body. It raised its head to the sky, and its sharp claws quickly fell on the two sides fighting in the pocket dimension. He wanted to stop the fight between the old enemies. But the mentor of the Divine Martial Academy suddenly stood in front of the Azure Dragon and waved his hand. The Azure Dragon of the Snow Wind Emperor was instantly frozen azure dragon. Lu Ming, we mean. The Snow Wind Emperor and the other 3 Divine Academy teachers were stunned. Let them fight. There can only be one genius. Whoever wins this time will be qualified to join my Shenwu Sacred Academy. Snow Wind Emperor, please don't interfere. Lu Ming stared coldly at the figures fighting in the small world. But what if the small world is destroyed? Jiang Qianren's expression was somewhat ugly. Jiang Xen, the 4 Divine Heavens God Art. Dragon Heavens Book Academy. My Heavenly Book Sacred Academy has a secret technique that can reinforce a small world and prevent them from damaging it. The teacher of the Heavenly Book Sacred Academy, the stern and inflexible woman, stood out and said, "The Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy's man with a heavy sword nodded in agreement." Of course, the 3 Divine Academies didn't ask for the opinion of the true Martial Academy. They completely excluded the young female mentor. The female mentor wasn't angry. She just looked at the figures fighting in the pocket dimension curiously. Rumble. In the small world, Yi Fei and Bailey Zhun had already turned the sky and earth upside down in their fight. Neither of them had any intention of showing mercy. As soon as they started fighting, Yi Fei used his full strength. "Bailey Zhun, I don't care what your motives are. Whoever hurt Xiao Qiao, I will take their life." The sword Qi was like light, tearing the world apart. At the same time, it also tore the demonic earth covered by the big hand. The sky suddenly became bright. 10 sun-like radiances were released from Yi Fei's body. Void sword fire. Yi Fei didn't hold back. He completely unleashed his 10 primordial spirits. Like 10 black holes, they devoured and destroyed everything. The sword fire was boundless, igniting the sky. It even suppressed the demonic flames on Bailey Zhun's body. For the first time, shock appeared on Bailey Zhun's face. How is this possible? He's just a mortal. How can he become so strong in 2 years? He can actually suppress a special genius like me? Bailey Zhun couldn't believe it. He still remembered 2 years ago when they met for the first time in the Xieshou Sea. Yi Fei was so weak that Bailey Zhun didn't even have the interest to make a move. He still remembered how he had chased Yi Fei to the ends of the earth in the Northern Wind Royal City. If it wasn't for someone playing a prank on him, summoning the martial emperor's soul and scaring Bailey Zhun away, Yi Fei would have been dead by now. He doesn't have a special bloodline. How can he grow so fast? Bailey Zhun couldn't understand, and he didn't need to understand. I don't care how strange you are. I am Bailey Zhun. Before ordinary cultivators like you, I, Bailey Zhun, am a god. If I want someone to die, they will die. Yi Fei die. 100 Devil Taboo. Roar. It was like the roar of a demon god, like the roar of hell. Bailey Zhun completely stopped looking down on Yi Fei. He launched his strongest punch. The black demonic fist was like a black sun. The pitch-black demonic flames rolled like demonic clouds, covering everything. Heavenly sword art. My body is like a sword. My sword is like a mountain. Whoosh! A blazing sword light turned into a terrifying sword light pillar. It suddenly tore apart the endless demonic clouds. Yi Fei became one with his sword. He slashed forward, directly cutting the demonic flames in the sky into black sparks and fragments. But at this moment, Bailey Zhun's figure suddenly appeared in front of Yi Fei in the blink of an eye. His fists were like black suns, creating ripples in the void. Then, he mercilessly smashed towards Yi Fei's sword. Bam! Yi Fei's one with his sword was instantly shattered by Bailey Zhun's punch. Yi Fei's body retreated rapidly, causing the space behind him to collapse. Qi! The soft sound of the demonic flames tearing apart attracted Bailey Zhun's attention. He stopped in his tracks in shock and looked at his fist in shock. Originally, Bailey Zhun's demonic fist had been enveloped by boundless demonic flames. However, at this moment, the demonic flames covering his entire body had been completely shattered. A deep sword wound had appeared on the fist that he had struck Yi Fei. Blue blood flowed out from the sword wound and dripped down from the sky. Bailey Zhun is injured. Yi Fei is injured too. Both of them are injured. Yi Fei actually has the strength to fight with Bailey Zhun. At this moment, due to the impact of the conflict between the two, Most of the young cultivators in the pocket dimension sped up their progress and passed the second stage. Then, they saw an unbelievable scene. Not only did Yi Fei and Bailey Jin fight, but both of them were injured. Chapter 976. The power of Tai Chi by Liz Hen was stunned. All the young martial artists present were stunned. Although they knew that Yi Fei was very strong, many people thought that Yi Fei was inferior to Bai Liz Hen. This was Dongfang Yu's personal evaluation. In many people's eyes, Dongfang Yu was just giving face to the Snow Wind Great Emperor by praising Yi Fei casually. But it was different now. Countless pairs of eyes saw the scene of Yi Fei and Bai Liz Hen fighting to the point where both of them were injured. Evenly matched, he can actually tie with a genius with a special bloodline. The beautiful mentor of the true martial sacred courtyard suddenly showed a touch of surprise in her eyes. The mentors of the Heavenly Book Sacred Courtyard and the Heavenly Book Sacred Courtyard also nodded with a smile. Good, this child is not bad. If an ordinary martial artist wants to stand shoulder to shoulder with a special bloodline, he must have a great fortuitous encounter and great luck. This child has both, which is very rare. It's too early to make a conclusion. When they decide the winner, we will know who is more talented. Lu Ming said these words to the small world, as if he was reminding Bai Liz Hen. The divine martial sacred courtyard valued aptitude the most. Lu Ming was very optimistic about Bai Li's strength. When his words were heard, Yi Fei's face suddenly changed. He understood that the divine martial sacred courtyard had most likely thought highly of Bai Liz Hen. Ha! Yi Fei, you are very good. You, a mortal, can actually break my demonic flame. Unfortunately, your glory will end here. Lu's 100 Demon Taboo. Bai Liz Hen sneered and rushed at Yi Fei again. He was as strong as ever. Although he was injured by Yi Fei, Bai Liz Hen wasn't oppressed. Human Demon Fist. Boom! Bai Liz Hen used a new fist technique. I have never used this fist technique in front of an outsider. It's not that I can't, but they don't deserve it. Human Demon Fist? Interesting. Unfortunately, you still have to die today. Yi Fei wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, a strong murderous intent burst out in his eyes. Since he had promised to protect Xiao Qiao, Yi Fei would never go back on his word. He would kill anyone that hurt Xiao Qiao. If a god comes, I will kill a god. Demons come, I'll slay them. Kill. Yi Fei's expression was grave. He slashed the space in front of him with his sword and then rushed in. He had already crossed hundreds of meters and suddenly appeared in front of Bailey Jun. The sword chi was like a mountain. The 10 great primordial spirits erupted with a dazzling sword Dao radiance at the same time. It was so bright that many people could not open their eyes. Then, countless young warriors were horrified to discover that with Yi Fei's sword, their swords all flew out uncontrollably and joined with Yi Fei's sword beam. 10,000 swords returned to sect. This child's comprehension ability is actually so terrifying. Not only has he grasped the sword heart, he is also about to grasp the true essence of the Earth Sword. The teacher of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy was extremely excited. The limit of the Earth Sword's momentum was 10,000 swords returned to origin. But if there were 10,000 geniuses who comprehended the Earth Sword's momentum, it would be a miracle if 100 of them could comprehend 10,000 swords returned to origin. Because after 10,000 swords return to origin, the Earth Sword's momentum would transform into the Heaven Sword's momentum. Without any guidance, it would be extremely difficult to comprehend it. Yi Fei's performance undoubtedly attracted the great attention of the teacher of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy. This Yi Fei, my Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy, will definitely take him. Who will be the winner will depend on this moment. Bailey Jun, don't disappoint me. My divine martial sacred academy doesn't want mediocre people. Lu Ming also let out a cold snort. At the same time, Bai Li Jun suddenly moved. Facing Yi Fei's 10 sword mountains, Bai Li Jun let out a sinister laugh. Behind him, the 3 heads and 6 arms of the demon god suddenly moved at the same time. Then, at the same time, they merged into Bai Li Jun's body. In an instant, the power of his human demon fist increased by 6 times. When Bailey Jun threw out this demon fist, the space in front of him instantly collapsed. At the same time, Yi Fei's 10 sore mountains also collapsed. They were all smashed by Bailey Jun's human demon fist. Yi Fei, do you see it? This is my true strength. My strength is something that an ordinary martial artist like you can never surpass in your lifetime. Roar. The demon god roared. The terrifying fist light pierced through the void, creating a terrifying void vortex, and mercilessly smashed toward Yi Fei's body. What a powerful human demon fist. As expected of a genius with a special bloodline. Bailey Jun, you may be weak, but you are indeed a strong enemy of mine. Facing Bailey Jun's human demon fist, Yi Fei's expression was full of solemnity and horror. Of course, he could see that his heavenly sword art was probably not as good as Bailey Jun's human demon fist. In that case, purple gold Tai Chi. Yi Fei suddenly widened his eyes. He no longer held back. The sword light in the sky disappeared, and the mysterious purple gold flame burned fiercely from Yi Fei's body. In an instant, the endless purple gold flame formed a rapidly rotating Tai Chi ball, wrapping Yi Fei. It also added a mysterious aura to Yi Fei's body. For a moment, many people even had the misconception that Yi Fei was like a god king of the heavens, walking through the mortal world. Heaven and earth couldn't be destroyed, and nothing could invade. Die! Boom, boom, boom. Bailey Jun's hair was like fire. He waved the human demon fist, forming a terrifying black star, and kept hitting the purple gold Tai Chi ball. The terror of the human demon fist instantly caused the space where Yi Fei was standing to collapse, forming a formless zone of nothingness. Looking at Yi Fei, the purple gold Tai Chi ball didn't even budge. In a breath, Bailey Jun had continuously hit the purple gold Tai Chi ball 100 times with a human demon fist, but he couldn't damage the purple gold Tai Chi ball at all. All of his attacks were neutralized by the purple gold Tai Chi ball. They either sank like stones into the sea or shot in all directions. Yi Fei stood in the middle of the purple gold Tai Chi ball, staring coldly at Bailey Jun, waiting for him to come closer. This is impossible. Bailey Jun looked as if he had seen a ghost. Invulnerable? Innately invincible? What kind of martial art is this? How can it have such a strong defense? No, even a martial emperor couldn't be invulnerable. There must be a flaw in his purple gold defense. I understand now. Bailey Jun was a terrifying genius who could defeat a young king. He was very powerful, and his perception was terrifying. He quickly discovered the flaw in the purple gold Tai Chi ball. Since martial arts can't break through your defense, I'll use pure strength to tear you apart. Bailey Jun roared. He no longer attacked Yi Fei from afar. Instead, he used the human demon fist. His entire body became one with his fist, and like a black shooting star, he charged fiercely at Yi Fei with destructive and murderous intent. At this moment, Yi Fei moved. A smile flashed across his face. Bailey Jun, you've been tricked. That's right, the purple gold Tai Chi ball did have a flaw. However, Yi Fei had already thought of a way to make up for it. Chapter 977. Taiji Cloud Hands Yi Fei's actions caused all the spectating warriors to be stunned. The fire had already reached his eyebrows. Was Yi Fei's brain sick? At this time, he was actually using such a slow fist technique? It was even worse than watching a 100-year-old grandpa on the martial heaven continent fight. It made people feel drowsy and weak. But this kind of fist art made the teachers of the 4 sacred academies solemn. They knew that at Yi Fei's level of strength, and in a life-and-death situation, it was impossible for Yi Fei to do something too senseless. Since Yi Fei had used such a fist technique, there must be a reason for it. I wonder if this fist technique can block Bai Lijian's strongest attack. I don't think so. His defense might be strong, but when it comes to offense, Bai Lijian with his special bloodline is still stronger. What kind of fist technique is this? Wait until he enters the heavenly Tao Sacred Academy. I will definitely teach him well. As a swordsman, he should focus on the sword. Everything else is superfluous. The teachers of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy were already teaching Yi Fei a lesson, as if he was a disciple of the Sacred Academy. At this moment, Yi Fei didn't know how many people were paying attention to his actions. At the same time, he was being mocked by many people. He was just as focused as before, slowly using the Taiji profound he had comprehended. Boom! His slowness was a stark contrast to Bai Lijian's speed. In the eyes of the spectators, Bai Lijian's fist was no longer a black meteor, but a terrifying black demonic light, shattering the void and tearing the sky apart. That wasn't a martial art, but pure strength. No one had expected that other than martial arts, Bai Lijian's physical strength was also so strong. This was a genius with a special bloodline. Who cares about your bullshit defense? I'll send you to the Western Paradise with one last punch. Bai Lijian's fist was like the wind, like a mountain, instantly shattering Yi Fei's Taiji defense. However, at this moment, a pair of slow purple-gold palms suddenly pushed towards Bai Lijian's body. Tai Chi cloud hands borrow strength to attack strength. Back off. Bang. Yi Fei's palms pressed against Bai Lijian's arms and pushed them forward fiercely. It was as if four tails were moving 1,000 jin, or an ant was moving a mountain. Suddenly, Bai Lijian was horrified to find that half of the power of the human demon fist he had thrown at Yi Fei with all his strength had been pushed back by Yi Fei and was instead used on him. This was equivalent to Bai Lijian punching himself with his own fist. He was completely caught off guard. Bai Lijian's entire body was pushed away by Yi Fei's palms like spring. Rumble. The pushing force of the Tai Chi cloud hand was too terrifying. It had actually pushed Bai Lijian several thousand meters away. While he was still in the air, half of his bones had already been crushed by the Tai Chi cloud hand. Bai Lijian spat out several mouthfuls of blue demon blood. Wow, Yi Fei did not have it easy either. The Tai Chi cloud hand had only pushed back half of the power of the human demon fist. Moreover, half of the power had been forcefully withstood by Yi Fei, and he had suffered serious injuries. After all, be it the purple gold Taiji or the Tai Chi cloud hand, they were all martial arts that Yi Fei had created using the power of despair. They were far from being perfect. The real purple gold Taiji should be invulnerable. It should be able to withstand all attacks, be it martial arts, secret skills, or pure physical strength. The real Tai Chi cloud hand should be able to push back all of the opponent's power. It should be able to give him a taste of his own medicine. However, Yi Fei was not discouraged. After all, he had only merged the power of despair twice. If he could merge it 3 times, he could even merge the power of despair 8 times like the heaven and earth supremacies. Then, he would definitely become the strongest martial god in the world. He might even be able to kill earthly supremacies and heavenly supremacies. Yi Fei wiped off the blood at the corner of his mouth. Suddenly, an unprecedented confidence appeared in his body. Bai Lijian, you have lost. Lost? How can I lose? You are just a mortal. You will never be able to defeat a special genius like me. In front of you, I am the demon god. Bai Lijian's hair was disheveled, and his eyes were burning with demonic flames. He had actually lost. He had lost to Yi Fei, whom he had looked down on the most. In the Xiexio Sea, Yi Fei was just an ant that he had looked down on. In the Royal Wind City, Yi Fei had been hunted down by him like a dog. However, in the imperial capital, he had actually been defeated by Yi Fei, and in front of so many people. Bai Lijian could not tolerate all of this. I will kill you. The demonic flames on Bai Lijian's body suddenly turned crimson red. In his rage, he could not care less. He burned his blood essence, and the black demonic flames instantly turned red. It was different from ordinary martial artists. When ordinary martial artists burned their blood essence, they could at most double their combat strength. However, when special bloodlines burned their blood essence, they could not only increase their combat strength, but also stimulate the power of their bloodline, giving them all sorts of unimaginable abilities. Yi Fei's face instantly turned grave. He knew that Bai Lijian was most likely going to fight him to the death. However, he could not back down. He cannot back down. Bailey Jun, allow us to settle our grudges here. That's right. It's time for us to settle our grudges. Today, I will trample over your mortal corpse and show everyone the glory of special bloodlines. Human-demon unification. Boom. Bailey Jun burned his blood essence and completely stimulated the power of his bloodline. His entire body merged with the demonic god behind him. At this moment, in the eyes of the crowd, Bailey Jun was a demonic god that walked between heaven and earth. His 3 heads roar at the same time. His 6 arms all burst out with terrifying demonic flames. Kill demonic god's fury. In the next instant, the demonic god moved. A total of 6 demonic man attacks shot towards Yi Fei. At the same time, the power of the attacks increased from 6 times to 18 times. This scene instantly scared the young martial artists present. Shui Wushang and the other 4 prodigies turned as white as a sheet of paper at the same time. A total of 18 times the attack power. Furthermore, it was executed by a special genius like Bailey Jun. Who could withstand it? Even if the 5 prodigies were to join forces, they would not be able to withstand a single finger from Bailey Jun. 18 times the attack power? I did not expect a special bloodline to be so powerful. Even if I have the Tai Chi cloud hands, I might not be able to withstand such power. I can't take it head on. Yi Fei's expression was extremely grave. Before Bailey Jun could reach him, he had already moved 100 miles away. However, in the next second, an aura that made Yi Fei's breathing stop appeared behind him. Yi Fei, where do you think you're going? Bailey Jun said word by word. His eyes shone with a deep red light and terrifying killing intent. He was definitely going to kill Yi Fei with this punch. Oh no, Yi Fei is probably going to lose. He might be killed by Bailey Jun on the spot. Chapter 978. You've lost. The one who stood out from the crowd was Lin Tianjiao. Even Yi Fei did not expect Lin Tianjiao to pass 2 rounds in a row. One had to know that Lin Tianjiao was only at Earth Thorough 2nd level. With Lin Tianjiao's strength, even if he was lucky enough to cross the bridge, it would be impossible for him to pass the 2nd round. However, Lin Tianjiao was also a person with great luck. While Yi Fei and Bailey Jun were fighting, the independent space of the arena had been affected. The generals inside had also become impatient. Taking advantage of that one opportunity, Lin Tianjiao had made an almost impossible comeback and killed his way out of the 2nd round. Then, Lin Tianjiao saw the terrifying battle between Yi Fei and Bailey Jun. He also saw the terrifying scene of Bailey Jun burning his bloodline. If it were any other martial artist, they would have been terrified by Bailey Jun's power after he burned his bloodline. However, Lin Tianjiao was different. His ancestor was the desolate emperor's bloodline. Even though the Lin family had declined over the years, the Eye of Thunder punishment was still in the hands of the Lin family. As the most talented genius of the Lin family, no one knew the terror of the Eye of Thunder punishment better than Lin Tianjiao. It was not only a secret technique, it represented the essence of a martial emperor's life. No one knew that the desolate emperor had once used this absolute art to break through all the martial arts in the world. Yi Fei also did not expect that Lin Tianjiao had relied on his own strength to forcefully clear the 2nd stage of the Earth Roll and had even enlightened him. Although Bailey Jun's bloodline is terrifying, his human-demon unite is not incomplete. He burned his bloodline to force it out. Since it is incomplete, there must be a flaw. If there is a flaw, I will have a chance to counterattack. Boom! As if enlightened, Yi Fei broke free from the power of Bailey Jun's human-demon unite and awakened. An unprecedented fighting spirit turned into a purple-gold flame, burning fiercely on Yi Fei's body. Bailey Jun, you are strong, but I will not lose. The stone puppet once said that anyone who walked out of the Azure Saint Palace was invincible. Since those seniors could do it, why can't I? Kill. The demon god's fist was getting closer and closer. Yi Fei's fighting spirit rose to the limit. Swoosh! In a situation where no one expected, Yi Fei opened his purple gold Tai Chi. Seeing this, Bailey Jun sneered disdainfully. Is your defense still effective under the power of my bloodline? Bang! The power of the human demon fist, which had been amplified by 18 times, had long surpassed the limits of what the purple gold Tai Chi could withstand. In 2 short breaths of time, Yi Fei's Tai Chi, the demon god, the purple Tai Chi was shattered Yi Fei. However, these 2 breaths had given Yi Fei the most precious time to activate the Eye of Thunder Punishment. Heaven and earth rumbled. A purple vertical eye suddenly appeared on Yi Fei's forehead. When the vertical eye opened, Yi Fei suddenly felt that Bailey Zhen's human devil fist had become extremely slow. Not only could he see the trajectory of the human devil fist, but he could also clearly see the layers of bloodline fluctuations on the surface of the human devil fist. So that's how it is. I understand now. The reason why the demon fist is so powerful is because Bailey Zhen is using his body as a cauldron to continuously supply the demon god with power. As long as I can destroy the demon god's energy source, I can forcibly break Bailey Zhen's demon unification. The Eye of Thunder Punishment was very magical. As long as one was strong enough, it could see through any falsehood in the world. No matter how strong Bailey Zhen's bloodline was, as long as he did not truly become one with the demon god, the Eye of Thunder Punishment could quickly find his weakness. Kill! Yi Fei roared to the sky. The moment he found the demon god's weakness, the Imperial Saint's sword in his hand bloomed with dazzling sword light. Finally, the sword light turned into a sharp sword light pillar. With an indomitable determination, it pierced towards the left side of the demon god. Yi Fei's Eye of Thunder Punishment could clearly see a small person sitting cross-legged inside the demon god's body. He was continuously supplying the demon god with his bloodline power. That person was none other than Bailey Zhen. Yi Fei is crazy. He actually dares to meet Bailey Zhen's 18 times demonic fist head-on. It's over. I'm afraid Yi Fei is going to be defeated. The special bloodline is the gap between him and Bailey Zhen that can never be crossed. Many warriors shook their heads when they saw Yi Fei's actions. They believed that Yi Fei was at his wit's end and was making a futile counterattack in desperation. What's going on? His sword is clearly aimed at me. How could he discover the flaw in my human-demon fusion? How could he discover my true body under the cover of the demon god? This lunatic, does he want to perish together with me? Within the demon god's body, Bailey Zhen's face was filled with shock and confusion. Then, his face turned pale. At this moment, the demon god's fist was less than a fist away from Yi Fei's body. If he continued to attack, Yi Fei would definitely die. However, Bailey Zhen did not dare to attack. This was because Yi Fei's sword was less than 10 centimeters away from him. At such a short distance, even if Yi Fei was killed by the demon god, the Emperor-based Saint sword would still be able to pierce into Bailey Zhen's body accurately. Yi Fei was gambling. He did not have a special attack that could ignite his bloodline like Bailey Zhen. The only thing he had was a crazy desire to drag his opponent down with him. Bailey Zhen, don't you want to kill me? Come on, let's both die here. Yi Fei roared angrily. He completely ignored the demon god's fist that was about to hit him. He just stabbed his sword forward crazily. Crazy? You're crazy. Bailey Zhen's face was filled with deep fear. He had a special bloodline. If nothing went wrong, his future would be bright. How could he be willing to die here with Yi Fei? Roar. The demon god roared furiously. He suddenly withdrew the demon god's fist that was about to hit Yi Fei. Bailey Zhen did not have the courage to fight to the death. He chose to retreat. Kill. However, Yi Fei did not retreat. He was really crazy. Even if he had to sacrifice his life, he would not let Bailey Zhen go. He would not let anyone who threatened Xiao Qiao go. Yi Fei did not withdraw the Emperor-based Saint's sword in his hand. He suddenly sped up. He ignored the demon god's roiling demon god and set his body on fire. The Emperor-based Saint's sword continued to pierce into the demon god's chest. Bang! The demon god's sword was shattered by Yi Fei's attack. Puff! Bailey Zhen's blood dyed the sky. When the demon god was destroyed, Bailey Zhen's chest was pierced by the Emperor-based Saint's sword. Many people could even see Bailey Zhen's beating heart and shattered sternum through the hole. Ah, Yi Fei, how dare you hurt me? Bailey Zhen's hair was disheveled. He looked like a ferocious ghost. He did not expect Yi Fei to be so crazy. He would rather die than kill him. You've lost. Chapter 979. A Dead Man. How can I be defeated? I will never be defeated by a mortal like you. Bailey Zhen's hair was disheveled as blood spurted from his chest. He looked like a ghost that had crawled out from hell as he let out his final roar. However, his roar was drowned out by Yi Fei's even louder voice. You are defeated. Your life is also gone. The Emperor-based Saint's sword was pointed at Bailey Zhen again. Even though his arm was charred black and the bones holding the sword could be seen clearly, Yi Fei did not retreat. He seemed to have forgotten about the pain. He raised his sword again and again. Then, Yi Fei became one with the sword. He ignored his injuries and forced himself to become one with the sword. He wanted to kill Bailey Zhen. Boom! The resplendent sword light illuminated the entire sky of the pocket dimension. It also shocked the hearts of all the young martial artists present. He really doesn't want to live anymore. He really wants to kill Bailey Zhen in front of us. An ordinary martial artist can actually defeat a genius with a special bloodline. The Fist Emperor Dong Fong Yu's evaluation of him might not be an exaggeration. Bailey Zhen is defeated. He's going to die now. Countless martial artists open their eyes wide, hoping to witness this miraculous scene. An ordinary martial artist defeating a martial artist with a special bloodline. This had never happened before in the Tianwu continent. Yi Fei had actually created such a miracle. He was going to kill Bailey Zhen in front of everyone. Through the sword light, everyone could feel Yi Fei's killing intent and determination. He wants to kill me. He really dares to kill me. Bailey Zhen, am going to be killed by an ordinary martial artist one day. Bailey Zhen clutched the bloody hole in his chest. His face was filled with fear. He kept retreating. This was the first time he felt the fear of death. However, he did not want to die. Save me. Who can save me? Bailey Zhen shouted in panic and despair. He no longer had the arrogance he had before. God had become a human. The legend had been destroyed. Sigh, what a pity. Bailey Zhen, your heart is in a mess. Your temperament still needs to be tempered. In the pocket dimension, a huge hand suddenly appeared. This hand grabbed Bailey Zhen and suddenly disappeared from the pocket dimension. Stay here. Yi Fei panicked. He had used all his strength and even risked his life to kill Bailey Zhen. But now, someone had saved him. When Bailey Zhen wanted to kill me, you didn't do anything. Now that I want to kill Bailey Zhen, you're doing something. Could it be that those with special bloodlines are humans, but we ordinary warriors aren't humans? Yi Fei dispelled the union of man and sword. He raised his head and roared furiously at the four mentors outside the crystal wall. The teachers of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy and the Heavenly Policy Sacred Academy fell silent. The beautiful teacher of the True Martial Sacred Academy also lowered her head helplessly. It was Lu Ming from the Shenwu Sacred Courtyard. Hearing Yi Fei's roar, Lu Ming just smiled indifferently and nodded indifferently. Of course, any special bloodline is a natural pearl. Ordinary martial artists are weeds on the ground. Yi Fei, let go of your hatred. With your talent, you can join the Shenwu Sacred Academy with Bailey Zhen. I guarantee you the position of Martial Emperor in the future. Although he wasn't optimistic about Yi Fei's talent, the scene of Yi Fei defeating Bailey Zhen made Lu Ming feel that Yi Fei was still a talent that could be cultivated. Bah! Yi Fei spat out a mouthful of blood. Although Lu Ming couldn't be seen in the pocket dimension, he still raised his sword and pointed at Lu Ming faintly. Who do you think you are? If I want to kill someone, I must kill him. If you dare to stop me, I will kill you. Junior, how dare you? Lu Ming flew into a rage. As a teacher of the Sacred Academy and from the strongest Shenwu Sacred Academy, even the Snow Wind Great Emperor had to be polite to him. How dare Yi Fei point his sword at him? I can be more presumptuous. Boom! The sword chi whistled, sweeping out a terrifying sword hurricane. In the dark, Yi Fei activated the power of the immortal sword soul to heal the injuries on his body. At the same time, Yi Fei held the imperial sword and walked step by step to the door in front of him. That was the door of the Earth list. Whoever could pass it first would be the first on the Earth list and could leave this pocket dimension. Ba Li Jun, wait for me. I will kill you now. If I want you to die, you can't live. Presumptuous! How dare you speak arrogantly in front of the Xinwu Sacred Academy? Lu Ming was extremely angry. He didn't have a special bloodline, but he dared to be so arrogant. This kid was too arrogant. The teachers of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy and the Heavenly Policy Sacred Academy frowned at the same time. The Snow Wind Great Emperor's face also changed a little because Yi Fei didn't care about Lu Ming's reprimand at all. He held the imperial sword and pushed hard at the door of the Earth list. It didn't open. He pushed hard again. It still didn't open. What's going on? It must be the Xinwu Sacred Academy. Since I can't open it, I will break it. Boom! In a rage, Yi Fei slashed at the door of the Earth list with his sword. The door of the Earth list still didn't move. Yi Fei's action also angered a mighty Heaven's Might. The Heaven's Might was ruthless and suppressed down. Puff! Yi Fei's knees went soft, and the holy sword stabbed into the ground. He was almost forced to kneel on the ground by this Heaven's Might. His eyes were filled with horror. This door of the Earth list has Heaven's Might. What's going on? Yi Fei can even defeat Ba Li Jun. Why can't he open the door of the Earth list? Many martial artists had a strange look on their faces. The door of the Earth list was just a formality. Once it was opened, one would be baptized by Heaven's Might. There were 1,000 martial artists present, and 999 of them could easily open it. However, the strongest Yi Fei couldn't do it. He actually activated Heaven's Might and couldn't open the door of the Earth list. Could it be that Yi Fei is actually... The mentors of the 4 sacred academies were shocked at the same time. They didn't do anything to the door of the Earth list. Even a Martial King realm martial artist could easily open it, but Yi Fei couldn't open it? Haha, he couldn't open the door of the Earth list and was suppressed by Heaven's Might. I finally understand. He's finished. He was finished long ago. No wonder he wasn't afraid of death. No wonder he fought with me so casually. He was a dead man from the beginning. Ba Li Jun was defeated. He was completely disheartened and dispirited. But after seeing Yi Fei being shocked by Heaven's Might, he suddenly understood something. His spirit, qi, and spirit were revived in an instant. He even let out a carefree and proud laugh. His laughter also made the faces of the mentors of the 4 sacred academies become solemn. The 4 of them looked at each other, and Lu Ming took the lead to speak. It seems that there is no mistake. If you can't open the door of the Earth list, you will be repelled by the Heaven's Might. Yi Fei might be a person abandoned by the heavens. There's no mistake. He's a person abandoned by the heavens. The mentor of the Heavenly Book Sacred Academy said solemnly. She was a serious person. When she found out that Yi Fei was a person abandoned by the heavens, her rigid face became even gloomier. Chapter 980. This Yi Fei is finished. As the ruler of a country and a half-step emperor himself, the Snow Wind Emperor Jiang Qianren naturally knew what it meant to be forsaken by the heavens. It meant that Yi Fei had been forsaken by the heavens. Not only would his fate be filled with misfortune, he would never be able to step onto the peak of the martial Tao. The heavens would definitely not allow someone forsaken by the heavens to step onto the peak of the martial Tao. Forsaken by the heavens. To think that Yi Fei would actually be forsaken by the heavens. This is troublesome. The Beast King stood beside the Snow Wind Emperor. Hearing this news, the Beast King's expression was rather ugly. Only little Fatty was still a little confused. He could not understand. Everyone seemed to be filled with warmth towards Yi Fei just now. How had their expressions become so gloomy and terrifying in just a short while? Father, what is a forsaken by the heavens? Is elder brother very bad? Little Fatty asked doubtfully. Sigh, child, it is not that Yi Fei is bad. He can only blame his bad fate. Even if he does not have a special bloodline, even if he is the most ordinary martial practitioner, he is still stronger than someone forsaken by the heavens. The Beast King sighed deeply. His eye also caused all the civil and military officials present, including Jiang Qianren, to regain their senses. Little Fatty still found it hard to understand. He continued asking, "How can Elder Brother's fate be bad? I feel that Elder Brother is pretty good. Could it be that being forsaken by the heavens will affect Elder Brother? Not only will it affect him, it is basically a disaster. Those forsaken by the heavens have never been tolerated by the heavens. Even if Yi Fei can break through the curse and break through to the martial saint realm, he will definitely not be able to break through to the martial monarch realm." The Beast King thought of the records of those forsaken by the heavens in ancient books. The heavens were originally emotionless. However, the heavens had its own preferences. Those who were favored by the heavens would have a smooth journey. Martial monarch, martial emperor, they would be within reach. These were martial practitioners with the aura of emperors. If they were forsaken by the heavens, they would definitely face endless calamities, destined to have no fate with the martial Tao. Even if they changed their fate and luckily broke through to the 12th level of the martial saint realm, becoming a martial saint, there was still the most terrifying trial waiting for Yi Fei, the martial monarch gate. A martial artist's cultivation is to go against the heavens. Therefore, whenever a martial artist breaks through to the martial emperor realm, the heavenly Tao will send down a heavenly tribulation to prevent them from going against the heavens. Ordinary martial artists are still fine as they are well prepared. Everyone has a 50% chance of success. However, the higher one's talent is, the greater the chance of success. The teacher of the real martial sacred courtyard said slowly. She looked extremely serious. But the people who have been abandoned by the gods are different. They're already abandoned by the gods. If they go through the heavenly tribulation, it's 10 times more difficult than other cultivators. Even real emperors can't withstand the heavenly tribulation. The one who has been abandoned by the heavens wants to transcend the tribulation. The beautiful mentor didn't finish her sentence, but everyone knew what she meant. If other warriors had a chance of passing the tribulation, they would have a chance of succeeding. For those who had been forsaken by the heavens to transcend their tribulations, it was basically a death sentence. It was impossible for them to break through to the martial emperor realm. Since they couldn't break through to the martial emperor realm, no matter how strong Yi Fei's talent was, it was useless to the 4 sacred courtyards. This was also the reason why Bailey Zhan said that Yi Fei was a dead man. After discovering that Yi Fei was a person who had been abandoned by the heavens, the teacher of the heavenly Tao sacred courtyard felt a heavy blow. He kept shaking his head and sighing. Sigh, sigh, how sad, how lamentable. This Yi Fei is a sword genius. If he joins our heavenly Tao sacred courtyard, he will definitely become a sword emperor. Unfortunately, he is a person who has been abandoned by the heavens. Our heavenly Tao sacred courtyard follows the will of the heavenly Tao sacred courtyard and can't tolerate such a star of misfortune. Our heavenly Tao sacred courtyard will give up on this kid. It's more than giving up. A person who has been abandoned by the heavens actually wants to kill a special genius like Bailey Zhan. Such an arrogant junior. Even if he becomes a servant of our divine martial sacred courtyard, I will think that his aptitude is too low. He will tarnish the invincible reputation of our sacred courtyard. Lu Ming of the divine martial sacred courtyard was the second to speak, expressing his attitude. Originally, he was quite surprised to discover Yi Fei's talent. However, after seeing Yi Fei's identity as a person who had been abandoned by the heavens, Lu Ming no longer had Yi Fei in his eyes. Bailey Zhan, you don't have to be discouraged this time. You must know that the most important thing in martial arts is aptitude. Your bloodline still has great potential. Once this potential is unearthed, this Yi Fei won't even be qualified to carry your shoes. Lu Ming turned his head and encouraged Bailey Zhan. Bailey Zhan's ugly face gradually improved. He thought to himself, it's shameful to be defeated by Yi Fei, but my future is bright and full of hope. His future is a dead end. He and I are simply people from 2 different worlds. Understanding this, Bailey Zhan completely recovered his confidence. He became more full of fighting spirit than before. He lowered his head and cupped his hands proudly to Lu Ming. "Thank you for your advice, sir. I understand. I won't argue with a dead person. This Yi Fei is finished, but my future is bright. Bailey Zhen, it's good that you can understand this. This Yi Fei is not qualified to join the divine martial sacred courtyard. Whoever wants him can take him." Lu Ming looked provocatively at the heavenly book sacred courtyard and the true martial sacred courtyard. Hearing this, the rigid middle-aged woman's expression almost froze on the spot. She shook her head coldly and said, "A person abandoned by the heavens is a child abandoned by the heavens. Not to mention that he has 10 primordial spirits. Even if he has 100 primordial spirits, our heavenly book sacred courtyard can't accommodate him. This kind of scourge is not qualified to enter our sacred courtyard." After saying that, the rigid woman of the heavenly book sacred courtyard turned around and left. The heavenly book sacred courtyard and the divine martial sacred courtyard also felt that paying attention to an ant like Yi Fei was purely a waste of their time. They snorted coldly and turned around to leave without saying goodbye to the Snow Wind Emperor. Seeing that the 3 sacred courtyards had left, the last beautiful teacher could only sigh and turn around to leave. "Your Majesty," the civil and military officials of the Snow Wind Empire were anxious at the same time. Although Yi Fei was abandoned by the heavens, the Snow Wind Empire had already placed a heavy bet on Yi Fei. They even conferred Yi Fei the title of king. Of course, they didn't want to see a super genius who had risen with great difficulty to be rejected by the 4 sacred courtyards. The Beast King remembered that Yi Fei had helped Little Fatty, so he couldn't help but put in a good word for Yi Fei. "Your Majesty, why don't we ask the 4 sacred courtyards for leniency? Seeing how powerful Yi Fei is, they might change their minds." In truth, as long as Jiang Qianren was willing to step in, considering the face of the emperor of a nation and the strength that Yi Fei had displayed, the 4 sacred academies might actually reconsider. Even if they didn't focus on nurturing Yi Fei, they would still reluctantly accept him into the sacred academies. But when the Snow Wind Emperor heard this, the reverse scale in his heart was enraged. He coldly swept a glance at the Beast King, then gloomily looked at the small world one last time. Finally, from the mouth of this emperor, 2 words that no one expected suddenly burst out. Chapter 981. Neither emperor nor minister, what? Trash? The words of the Snow Wind Emperor shocked all the civil and military officials. As an emperor, he had to be very careful with his words and actions. It was even more so for those super geniuses. Today, Jiang Qianren actually called him trash. It could be seen how disappointed and angry Jiang Qianren was. No one knew why Jiang Qianren was so angry. Only Jiang Qianren himself knew that he was so angry because of a decision he made. After discovering that Yi Fei came from the outer seas and was a super genius, Jiang Qianren secretly cherished him. In order to tie Yi Fei to the Snow Wind Empire, Jiang Qianren made a private decision to marry his beloved daughter, Jiang Xiaomo, to Yi Fei. He was waiting for Yi Fei to shine in the Earth ranking examination. Jiang Qianren was prepared to announce this matter in public. How could he have imagined that Yi Fei was abandoned by the heavens and was abandoned by all the mentors of the 4 sacred courtyards? Jiang Qianren was so angry that he lost his composure and gave such an evaluation. Jiang Qianren reacted afterwards. He shouldn't have been so absolute. But since he had already said it in front of all the officials, Jiang Qianren wouldn't take it back so easily. He might as well make the best of it. He continued to be angry. "Men, pass on my order. Yi Fei is abandoned by the heavens. He deceived the emperor by not reporting it. From today onwards, Yi Fei will be stripped of all his official titles and demoted to a commoner. Bailey Zhen, you are talented and intelligent. You have a bright future ahead of you. You are one of my trusted subordinates. Therefore, I hereby appoint Bailey Zhen as the divine martial battle king. If he doesn't kneel in front of me, he will be hereditary." The 2 orders, one rising and one falling, completely disrupted the minds of all the officials. Yi Fei was still famous in the imperial capital a month ago. But today, because of Jiang Qianren's words, he fell to the bottom of the valley and was instantly banished to the Cold Palace. Bailey Zhan was defeated by the Fist Emperor a month ago and lost all his face. But now, he was hereditary and became another battle king of the opposite sex in the Snow Wind Empire. He was even bestowed the title of Divine Marshal. The Emperor's joy and anger are truly terrifying. The officials sighed in their hearts, but no one dared to be negligent. They all knelt down and praised the Snow Wind Emperor's wisdom and martial prowess. Only little Fatty was unwilling to accept this. He loudly asked, "Dad, what's going on? Didn't you say that brother defeated Ma Shursan and protected our Snow Wind Empire's hero? Shouldn't heroes be rewarded?" Little Fatty's words caused the faces of all the civil and military officials to change. The Beast King's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he hurriedly covered Little Fatty's mouth. "You scoundrel brat, don't spout nonsense if you're stupid. Be careful, or I'll beat you to death." Yi Qianren nor yi nor Shursan. Yi nor yi. Yi. Not. Beast King, your son is not bad. Teach him well. Also, you should break off your engagement with Yi Fei as soon as possible. He's a man abandoned by the heavens. How could he be worthy of your Beast King's daughter? Umph. The Snow Wind Emperor's anger had yet to subside. He simply waved his hand, turned around, and left in large strides. Seeing that Jiang Qianren had left, none of the civil and military officials dared to stay any longer. Yi Fei was not only a scourge, but also a plague. It was best to leave as soon as possible. "Father, could it be that even you can't tolerate elder brother?" Seeing that the Snow Wind Emperor had left, Little Fatty hurriedly said. The Beast King looked very conflicted, but when he saw Little Fatty's spirited eyes, the Beast King sighed and shook his head. A monarch is not a monarch, and a subject is not a subject. Jiang Qianren, since you're not a monarch, then don't blame me for not being a subject. Son, don't worry. Even if Yi Fei is a cripple who has been abandoned by the heavens, just because he saved you before, I will still help him. The Beast King stomped his feet and simply stood alone on the training field with Little Fatty. In the pocket dimension, at this moment, Yi Fei didn't know that his identity had been exposed and that it had caused a huge uproar. His expression was very unsightly as he regained his footing. Shui Wushang and the others had strange expressions. They were the 5 great sky prides of the imperial capital. Naturally, they understood what it meant that Yi Fei couldn't push open the door to the Earth ranking. What a pity. Yi Fei was actually abandoned by the heavens. It's useless no matter how strong he is. Yeah, so what if he defeated Bailey Zhan? Since he was abandoned by the heavens, his life is completely over. Shui Wushang and the others discussed in low voices. When their words spread out, all the young martial artists were shocked. What? Yi Fei was actually abandoned by the heavens? Shut your dog mouths. So what if he was abandoned by the heavens? My brother is still 10,000 times stronger than you. Xiajun was furious. Following the exposure of Yi Fei's identity as the one who had been abandoned by the heavens, everyone distanced themselves from Yi Fei as if they were avoiding the plague. Only the Xia army strode forward and stood firmly beside Yi Fei. That's right. Martial arts cultivation has always been against the heavens. Since it's against the heavens, why should we follow the heavens? Brother Yi, I believe that you will be able to overcome the heavens. Lin Tianjiao suddenly walked over and stood beside Yi Fei with Xiajun. At the same time, they pushed open the door to the Earth ranking. Elder brother, please. Brother Yi, you will always be number 1 in our hearts. Xiajun and Lin Tianjiao clasped their hands together. Brothers, thank you very much. Yi Fei clasped his hands together with his sword. He didn't care about his identity being exposed. He only cared about one thing, and that was Bailey Zhan's life or death. I will definitely kill Bailey Zhan. As the door to the Earth ranking opened, Yi Fei walked out of the pocket dimension with his emperor-based Saint's sword and his body bathed in golden light. He arrived at the square of the imperial palace. There was complete silence in the square. Everyone had left, and Bailey Jean was nowhere to be seen. Yi Fei's face turned cold. He knew that he was still one step too late. Although he knew that this would be the result of his identity being exposed, he was still very disappointed. The Snow Wind Monarch had left, and the mentors of the 4 sacred courtyards had all left. No one was optimistic about him. Did they all think that he was doomed to die because he was abandoned by the heavens? Of course, there was one person who didn't leave. Seeing Yi Fei come out, the little fatty ran over in a simple and honest manner. "Elder brother, we meet again. Elder brother, follow me back to the Beast King residence. I will protect you." Father said that even if you are a cripple, he will still marry 7th sister to you. Beast King, you still don't want to give up. Yi Fei glared at the Beast King. This old man was so shameless. His daughter was only 7 years old. "Humph, Yi Fei, you are abandoned by the heavens, and you still dare to be unreasonable with me. You should be happy that I have taken a liking to you as my son-in-law." The Beast King snorted. In any case, he didn't like Yi Fei. When enemies met, they didn't see eye to eye. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to say more. He stretched out his hand and said, "Since you know that I am abandoned by the heavens, do you want to harm your daughter? Hurry up and return the marriage contract to me." The marriage contract was Yi Fei's biggest stain. Although he had never admitted it, it was still written in black and white. Chapter 982. The Holy Court welcomes you, old man. If you dare to do this, I'll ask little fatty to chase you for another 100,000 miles. Yi Fei was furious. He was already very unhappy that he had been set up by the Beast King and had signed the marriage contract for no reason. If the Beast King's daughter was a great beauty, Yi Fei might have accepted it after suffering a little. But the problem was that the girl was only 7 years old. If this news were to spread, the Beast King might be willing to lose face, but Yi Fei couldn't afford to lose face. "Hee, Pang Bei is my son. How can he be bewitched by you again and again?" The Beast King was very confident in little fatty. "Is that so? Little fatty, go and beat him up." Yi Fei turned his head and said to little fatty. Little fatty was very puzzled. "Elder brother, why are you asking me to beat father again?" Father said, "This is wrong. Little fatty, you've been deceived by your father. He wants to push your sister into the fire pit. I asked you to hit him because I want you to wake him up. This is an expression of your love for him. The harder you hit him, the happier your father will be when he wakes up." Yi Fei casually found an excuse to make little fatty's eyes light up. He slapped his head and said in realization, "Elder brother, so that's what happened. Elder brother, I'll listen to you." Boom. As he spoke, little fatty's demonic aura surged. Seeing that he was about to transform again, the Beast King's expression changed. He pointed at Yi Fei and was so angry that his fingers were trembling. "Yi Fei, you sly bastard. How dare you bewitch my son like this? Bastard, look carefully. I am your father." Little fatty said seriously, "Of course I know you are my father. Otherwise, why would elder brother want to beat you up? You guys are ruthless. You are already abandoned by the heavens, yet you are still so arrogant. Remember, if you can't survive anywhere else, come to the Beast King residence. The marriage contract in my hands is valid at any time." The Beast King was speechless and turned to leave. As a father, he was actually beaten up by his son. This was too unreasonable. What was even more unreasonable was that little fatty had never listened to anyone since he was young, except for Yi Fei. The Beast King was very jealous. "Wait, Beast King, thank you for standing by my side." Yi Fei stopped little fatty and suddenly cupped his hands towards the Beast King in a serious manner. Although the Beast King was a bit of an old scoundrel, when everyone had given up on him, the Beast King did not draw a clear line with him. Instead, he stayed and firmly supported him. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Yi Fei didn't dare to agree to the Beast King's suggestion, but Yi Fei could clearly feel the Beast King's friendship. "Humph, you don't have to thank me. Pang Bei is this king's most valued son. You helped him rise to power. Not to mention marrying my daughter to you. Even if this king gave you the entire Beast King residence, it wouldn't matter. Martial Saint is the end for those who have been abandoned by the heavens. Yi Fei, if you take another step forward, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Give up on the martial path and join my Beast King residence. I can guarantee you riches and safety. The Beast King turned his head and looked deeply at Yi Fei. Thank you for your kind intentions, Beast King. However, even if the heavens have abandoned me, I will not abandon you. Life is what I am born with, but the path I walk on is my own. No one can stop me from walking on the path I want to walk. No one can stop me, not even the heavens. Yi Fei stood tall and straight. When he said these words, his entire aura became imposing. The conviction in his heart did not suffer a blow. Instead, it became even more resolute. This resolute attitude made many of the young, ancient martial art practitioners who followed him blush with shame and admiration. Then, many of them secretly shook their heads. The Beast King also secretly shook his head. He supported Yi Fei because Yi Fei had done little Fatty a favor. As for Yi Fei's status as a person who had been abandoned by the heavens, the Beast King did not think highly of him. None of the ancient martial art practitioners present thought highly of him either. When they heard Yi Fei's words, many people in the crowd secretly sneered and turned to leave. Even the Beast King left. Only 3 people remained in the martial arts practice arena of the palace. They were Xia Jun, Lin Tianjiao, and Little Fatty. Even Jiang Cheng sighed helplessly as he was forcefully dragged away by his companions from Wind Cloud City. It was also at this moment that a cold voice sighed faintly. Your willpower is commendable. Unfortunately, the heavens are unpredictable and people are uncertain about their fortunes. Yi Fei, do you know that in our Tianwu continent, there has never been a person who has been abandoned by the heavens who cultivated to the martial emperor realm? In the end, they all died in the martial emperor tribulation. The person who had sighed was a beautiful teacher from the real martial sacred academy. She did not know why she had come back. She seemed to be advising Yi Fei. The Beast King's suggestion is not bad. For a person who has been abandoned by the heavens, becoming a martial saint is the ultimate goal. If you stop now, you can still retain your current glory. At the very least, you can still become an invincible half-saint. If you continue, you will continue to walk on the path of death. The beautiful teacher's expression was extremely serious. She was seriously advising Yi Fei to give up on the martial path and be a normal person. Ha! Yi Fei laughed. It was a very sunny laugh. It was a very cheerful laugh. The heavens cannot defeat me. My identity as a person who has been abandoned by the heavens cannot defeat me. I'm a master of my destiny. My life is destined to be extraordinary. The path that I want to take cannot be stopped by the heavens. Boom! A bolt from the blue. It was as if the heavens were enraged. Yi Fei's words actually caused the aura of the tribulation cloud to appear in the sky. It was obvious that the heavens had noticed Yi Fei, a person who had been abandoned by the heavens, with the power of despair. In any case, Yi Fei had completely violated the heavens. Facing the tribulation cloud, Yi Fei's face did not show the slightest fear. He pointed to the sky and said, "The heavens are just this. A person who has been abandoned by the heavens might see death and despair in your eyes. However, in my eyes, there is hope behind despair. Behind death, there is glory." As he spoke, Yi Fei activated the 9 true spirit transformations and suddenly concealed his aura. The heavens could not sense him, and the heavens might disappeared. You actually dare to ignore the heavens. You are disrespecting the heavens? The beautiful teacher was shocked. Where did your confidence come from? My innate confidence. Yi Fei smiled faintly. The beautiful teacher fell silent. Then she smiled and nodded slightly. Your martial heart is very firm. It is firmer than many of the peerless geniuses I have seen. What our true martial sacred academy values the most is a person's temperament. Are you willing to join the true martial sacred academy? What? Big brother wants to join the true martial sacred academy? Xia Jun's mouth was wide open. Then he desperately tried to signal Yi Fei with his eyes. He wanted Yi Fei to look at the beautiful teacher's long legs. Rolling his eyes, Yi Fei directly ignored Xia Jun's wretched look. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. Now that things have come to this, is there any other academy I can join? Originally, he had a good impression of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy. He hoped to join the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy and cultivate the Heavenly Tao Sword Cannon. However, the teachers of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy had undoubtedly abandoned him. Other than the true Martial Sacred Academy, he had nowhere else to go. Yi Fei, I represent the true Martial Sacred Academy to welcome you. Chapter 983. You don't know what's good for you. Thank you. Yi Fei reached out and shook the beautiful mentor's hand. His eyes were filled with determination. So what if everyone abandoned him? At least he still had his friends and brothers by his side. There were still a few people who stood firmly by his side. What else was there for him to be dissatisfied with? What else was there to be discouraged about? One day, I will become the strongest martial god and walk the path of death for all the people abandoned by the heavens. In the past, Yi Fei had only wanted to become stronger so that he could find his sister, Yi Shanshan. However, after Yi Shanshan's safety and the things that he had experienced in the capital, Yi Fei suddenly had a greater goal in his heart. He would strive for self-improvement and not be abandoned by the heavens. One day, I will clear the name of the people abandoned by the heavens. I will tell everyone in this world that the most important thing in martial arts is not one's talent or aptitude. It is one's heart, one's perseverance, and one's belief. Yi Fei looked up at the sky. His eyes were shining brightly. The beautiful mentor looked at Yi Fei. She was slightly surprised. This was an interesting young man. It seemed that nothing in the world could defeat him. Beautiful sister, you seem to have forgotten something. I also want to join the real Martial Sacred Academy. I will never leave, big brother. Seeing that the beautiful instructor was only paying attention to Yi Fei and had forgotten about the handsome man beside her, Xia Jun's heart was filled with resentment. Like a resentful woman, Xia Jun naturally extended his hand towards the beautiful instructor. Xia Jun's motive was self-evident. He wanted to touch senior sister's hand. No, he wanted to join the real Martial Sacred Academy. For this reason, he did not hesitate to drag Lin Tianjiao and Fatty along. The three of us are willing to be with senior sister. Hearing this, the beautiful teacher was so amused that she couldn't help but laugh out loud. She even forgot to shake Xia Jun's hand. Xia Jun was embarrassed. Lin Tianjiao suddenly wanted to beat Xia Jun to death. It was enough for you to be wretched. Why did you have to drag us along? Fatty looked at Yi Fei in confusion. Brother, do you want to join the Sacred Academy? Can I join with you? Yi Fei did not say anything. The beautiful mentor laughed and nodded. Of course, you can all join us. However, you must get a good ranking in the heaven list. Remember, the higher the ranking, the more the Sacred Academy, the more the Sacred Academy. Otherwise, even if you join the Academy, you will only be in the Sacred Academy. Remember, the higher your ranking, the higher the Sacred Academy. The more the Sacred Academy, the more resources you. The Sacred Academy. Sacred Academy. After saying this, the beautiful teacher turned around and left. Of course, she forgot to shake. Yes. Xia Jun's face could not help but reveal a huge sense of disappointment. Why won't you let me touch her hand? Get lost. Yi Fei could not stand it anymore. Humph. You are not even a martial sage. How dare you chase after a senior sister of the Sacred Academy who is in the half-emperor realm? You are delusional. You can think about it when you are strong enough. Lin Tianjiao also scolded with a dark face. He was the descendant of the desolate emperor. Even if he was a declining emperor, he still had his pride. But just now, Xia Jun dared to drag him along to be wretched? Ignoring Lin Tianjiao's sarcasm, Xia Jun was deep in thought. With a rare, serious expression, he said, I see. The reason why I can't touch senior sister's hand is because I am not strong enough. If I am strong enough, then I can touch senior sister's hand whenever I want. Right? Brother, I have decided. I want to become strong. I must touch senior sister's hand. Xiaojun's expression was unprecedentedly serious. Yi Fei, Lin Tianjiao, Fatty touched his head. He suddenly felt that he was not the stupidest person here. There was at least one person who looked stupider than him. Your Majesty, the Beast King did not break off the engagement. He seems to be supporting Yi Fei. The mentors of the True Martial Sacred Academy have also contacted Yi Fei and invited him to join the True Martial Sacred Academy. Should we punish the Beast King? In the palace, someone quickly told the Snow Wind Emperor, Jiang Qianren, what happened to the martial arts practice field. Jiang Qianren frowned and shook his head. That's not right. The Beast King residence has always been loyal to the royal family. The Beast King did not do anything wrong. If I punish him, I will lose the support of the people. However, although Yi Fei was abandoned by the heavens, he was valued by the True Martial Sacred Academy. He is not completely useless. How about this? Pass down my order. Temporarily suspend the seizure of the Sword King residence. Demote him from Sword King to Sword Marquis and observe him for a while. Seeing that Yi Fei was still useful, Jiang Qianren promoted Yi Fei from a commoner to a Sword Marquis. Within a day, Jiang Qianren could decide his promotion and demotion with a single thought. This was the way of an emperor. This was the way of an emperor. As expected, being with an emperor is like being with a tiger. A month ago, I was still the Sword King and was on equal footing with Bailey Zhan. Now, Bailey Zhan has been promoted to an official and hereditary title, while I have been demoted to a commoner and demoted to a Sword Marquis. This is the grace of the emperor. However, I, Yi Fei, cannot accept this grace. After returning to the Sword King residence, Yi Fei received the Snow Wind Emperor's order. After a moment of surprise, he sneered. He did not return to the Sword King residence. Instead, he brought Xiaojun back to the Uli Inn. It was worth mentioning that little Fatty followed along. It turned out that the Beast King was worried that little Fatty was not smart enough and would be easily bullied if he participated in the Earth leaderboard. Hence, he went through the back door and directly told the Snow Wind Emperor to let little Fatty pass in advance and reserve a spot on the Heaven leaderboard. Under Yi Fei's invitation, Lin Tianjiao also moved over from his original inn. Everyone gathered together and looked after each other. When this news spread to the imperial palace, all the civil and military officials were stunned. This is the grace of the emperor. Since this Yi Fei knows about it, why does he dare to publicly reject the title bestowed by the emperor? He doesn't know what's good for him. A person abandoned by the heavens is a cripple. If he wants to be a cripple, then I will fulfill his wish. Faced with Yi Fei's refusal to resign his title, the Snow Wind Emperor was furious. He directly tore down the Sword Marquis residence. This also reminded everyone in the imperial capital that Yi Fei was now a god of plague. Whoever approached Yi Fei would be going against the Snow Wind Emperor. The entire Uli Inn suddenly became deserted. Not only did no one come to visit Yi Fei, even the shopkeepers and guests of the inn fled. They were afraid that they would suffer from Yi Fei's plague if they stayed in the inn. This is good too. The four of us can stay together. It's quiet and free. We can wait for the opening of the Heaven leaderboard with peace of mind. Yi Fei only smiled at this and planned to return to his room to cultivate. At this moment, Jiang Cheng suddenly walked in from outside the inn with a large number of gifts. Brother Yi, Jiang Cheng, came to visit abruptly. Chapter 984. Land of the Buried Gods, walking into the inn. Jiang Cheng put down the gift and suddenly cupped his hands towards Yi Fei in a very sincere manner as he explained, Brother Yi, regarding the matter of the martial arts practice field, I hope that you will not misunderstand. I can support you in my heart, but my status does not allow me to walk together with you in public. I hope you can understand that I sincerely want to be friends with you. Friend, aren't you treating me like an outsider? Xiaojun sneered at the pile of gifts on the table. There were spirit stones and elixirs, all of which were very precious. Jiang Cheng explained, the elites of the Royal Wind City asked me to pass these items to you. When they were crossing the single plank bridge, they received Brother Ye's kindness. After learning that Brother Yi had angered the immortal emperor, they were afraid that they would be implicated. Hence, they decided to pass these items to you as a token of gratitude. So they're here to sever ties. Xiaojun continued to be sarcastic. Even Lin Tianjiao's face was filled with anger. Many thanks, I'll accept these gifts. Yi Fei's reply was unexpected. Xiaojun and Lin Tianjiao were puzzled. Jiang Cheng was relieved when he heard this. He shook his head and sighed. Brother Yi, please don't blame them. They're the same as me. They rely on the empire to survive. Don't worry, I won't blame them. Yi Fei nodded. He understood. In the end, whether it was Jiang Cheng or the families of the Royal Wind City, they were all people of the Snow Wind Empire. They could offend anyone but the royal family. Now that Yi Fei was rejected by the royal family, everyone in the inn was scared and ran away. It was completely expected that the people of the Royal Wind City would sever ties with him. But understanding was one thing. Yi Fei was still a little disappointed. He finally experienced the fickleness of human nature. Brother Jiang, do you have any other reason for coming this time? Yi Fei looked at Jiang Cheng. Right now, he was the god of plague. Everyone avoided him. If the people of the Royal Wind City wanted to sever ties with him, they could just send a servant over. There was no need for Jiang Cheng to come personally. Jiang Cheng nodded and suddenly said in a deep voice, Instructor Liu of the Divine Martial Sacred Academy knows that you're from my Royal Wind City. He specially asked me to pass you a message. What message? Yi Fei raised his eyebrows. Let go of your hatred for Bailey Zhan. Then he can consider giving you a chance to join the Divine Martial Sacred Academy. Jiang Cheng said, What if I don't? Yi Fei forcefully suppressed his anger. Brother Yi. Yi Fei was very polite. He didn't sever ties with Jiang Cheng, but after this incident, the relationship between the two of them had become a lot more distant. Jiang Cheng turned around and left the inn. Xiaojun, Lin Tianjiao, and the little fatty all gathered around. Xiaojun said worriedly, Brother, it seems like the Divine Martial Sacred Academy is determined to protect Bailey Zhan. Shenwu's Sacred Academy. I'll remember it. But if I want to kill someone, even the Heavenly Emperor won't be able to protect him. I don't believe that Lu Ming can still intervene in the Heavenless Supreme battle. Yi Fei said coldly. Although it was a pity that he couldn't kill Bailey Zhan on the Earth List, the Heaven List would be held soon. The Heaven List would be held in a special space like the Land of Buried Gods, which was protected by the super arrays of the 4 sacred academies. Except for the martial artists, no one could enter. It was the best place to settle the grudge with Bailey Zhan. Xiaojun and Lin Tianjiao's eyes became bright. The little fatty also touched his head and smiled happily. He seemed to understand something. The palace was a luxurious palace. Lu Ming got Jiang Cheng's report, and his face became quite gloomy. Shameless thing, you are abandoned by the heavens. You are a martial arts cripple. I kindly pointed out the way to you, but you dare to refuse. Bailey Zhan, you must kill this person in the Heavenless Supreme battle to wash away your shame. Only in this way can you be valued by the Divine Martial Sacred Academy. Yi Fei, the Heavenless Supreme battle will be your death date. Bailey Zhan stood behind Lu Ming. When he heard that Yi Fei insisted on killing him, Bailey Zhan's face turned livid with anger. Back then, Yi Fei had been chased all over the place by him like a dog. How long had it been since then? Yi Fei had actually defeated him and almost killed him. Bailey Zhan felt that this was a stain in his life. Such a stain can only be washed away with Yi Fei's blood. After the Earth List, the Heaven List didn't start immediately. Instead, it gave many young geniuses a month's buffer time. Taking advantage of this month, all the young geniuses who passed the Earth List were cultivating without eating or sleeping. Yi Fei was the same. He couldn't break through to the half-saint in a short time. In the remaining time, Yi Fei simply focused on the Eye of Thunder Punishment. Through the communication with Lin Tianjiao, Yi Fei knew more about the Eye of Thunder Punishment. It turned out that the more one cultivated the Eye of Thunder Punishment, the longer it could last. Yi Fei could only maintain the Eye of Thunder Punishment for 10 breaths. He planned to take advantage of this month to increase the duration of the Eye of Thunder punishment to 20 breaths. Don't underestimate the extra 10 breaths. The more advanced the martial arts, the longer it would take to find the flaws. At this time, the extra 10 breaths were very precious. 1 month passed. Yi Fei successfully increased the duration of the Eye of Thunder punishment to 20 breaths. Lin Tianjiao also improved his strength from the Earth Thorough 1st LV to the Earth Thorough 5th LV. This was the advantage of having a lot of spirit stones and monster souls. As long as there was no bottleneck, the improvement of strength would be very fast. Of course, the one who improved the most was Little Fatty. In the Beast King city, Little Fatty was only at the Martial King 10th LV. After a month, Little Fatty had broken through to the Earth Thorough 10th LV. This was a real rocket breakthrough. It couldn't be helped. Little Fatty was favored by the monster god and was personally taught. Besides envy, Yi Fei and the others were a little jealous. Just as everyone was immersed in jealousy of Little Fatty, the palace bell rang again. The martial artists who passed the Earth list once again gathered in the martial arts practice field of the palace. Out of the 70 to 80,000 martial artists, only 1,000 people were qualified to participate in the Heaven List Supreme Battle. Among the thousands of empires, the Snow Wind Empire was at the bottom. Jiang Qianren's face was very ugly. It wasn't until he saw Bailey Zhen appear with Lu Ming that his face eased a little. Bailey Zhen and Lu Ming's faces were also very ugly. They both saw Yi Fei standing behind the beautiful mentor of the true martial sacred courtyard. Just a cripple abandoned by the heavens. Is he worthy to join the sacred courtyard? Lu Ming was quite dissatisfied with the true martial sacred courtyard, but he didn't attack. Instead, he waved his hand. The 4 mentors stepped forward at the same time. In the martial arts practice field of the palace, each took out an array platform and put it together. Boom! The 4 platforms shone brightly at the same time. The sky suddenly changed color, and a crimson land appeared. That land was empty, but it was filled with all kinds of violent and terrifying auras. From time to time, it was possible to see broken pieces of stars falling into it. Chapter 985. The 4 regions. Once you enter the teleportation platform, you'll be able to enter the land of the buried gods and participate in the Sky Leaderboard Sovereign Battle. Remember, you are all elites of the Empire. You must unite and show the might of the Empire. The 4 great teachers had to control the array and didn't have time to speak. As the monarch of a country, the Snow Wind Emperor Jiang Qianren was duty-bound. He stood out to boost the morale of the troops and especially emphasized the importance of unity. In the end, he coldly glanced at Yi Fei. Yi Fei lowered his gaze like an old monk meditating. The rest of the cultivators were encouraged and shouted one after another. Show the might of the Empire. Long live the Emperor. They shouted the slogan and stepped on the journey. Originally, as the number 1 on the Earth leaderboard, Yi Fei should be the leader of this group and lead everyone into the land of the buried gods. However, the martial artists present directly ignored Yi Fei. Their eyes were all fixed on Bailey Zhen. Bailey Zhen was clad in battle armor. Behind him stood Jiang Xiaoma and Shui Wushang. He was like a general commanding thousands of soldiers and horses. He ordered in a deep voice, "Follow me to battle. We will follow Battle King Shenwu to our deaths. Battle King Shenwu will win." Yi Fei, I didn't expect you to have such a day. Abandoned by the heavens, ha! In front of the crowd, Bailey Zhen laughed heartily and stepped into the teleportation platform. Then, countless youths swarmed into the teleportation platform. At this time, Yi Fei raised his head and smiled. Not only do I have such a day, but I also have a tomorrow. My future is in my hands. Let's go. He led Xia Jun, Lin Tianjiao, Fatty, and Yi Fei onto the teleportation platform. All the cultivators that entered the teleportation platform would first pay their respects to the Snow Wind Emperor. From the beginning to the end, Yi Fei and the other 3 didn't even look at Jiang Qianren. Jiang Qianren's face was ugly. His subordinates were furious. What kind of arrogant person dares to ignore his majesty after entering our empire? This person is disloyal and should be sentenced to death. Forget it. He's just a dying man. He's a crippled body abandoned by the heavens. He's doomed to have no future. I don't tolerate anyone under the heavens, let alone a mere piece of trash. Jiang Qianren's performance was very magnanimous. Your Majesty's magnanimity is truly a blessing to the nation and our fortune. A group of civil and military officials frantically flattered Jiang Qianren's old face, making him smile like a chrysanthemum. In the end, he ordered his men to erect a giant crystal wall at the training ground to connect to the special dimension where the land of the buried gods was located. This way, even if they didn't leave their homes, the empires would be able to observe the performance of their elites from the imperial capital. The four mentors also stayed in the training field and did not follow him in. Legend had it that a true martial god was buried in the god burial ground. The closer one got to it, the more one could feel the majestic aura of the martial god. It was like a real world, full of pressure and the unknown. Even someone as strong as Bailey Jun had no choice but to lower his proud head in the face of the pressure of the land of buried gods. Everyone knelt down on one knee and faced forward, including Yi Fei. This was respect for the martial god of the human race, even if this martial god had been dead for tens of thousands of years. Sensing the aura of the land of buried gods, Xiao Chao, who was sleeping soundly with the dragon turtle in his arms, quietly opened his eyes in the beast-marked space. Then, he quickly closed his eyes in fear, not daring to look again. Yi Fei did not notice this. He had long been attracted by the mysteries of the land of buried gods. It was like a complete world. There was a sun, a moon, and stars. Compared to the world of the martial god, the small worlds built by other martial artists were like the difference between a village and a majestic city. When Yi Fei and the others entered, the land of buried gods was already filled with countless young elites selected from thousands of empires. Looking at the number of people, there were at least hundreds of thousands of people, all of whom were earth-shattering almighty. There were innumerable half-saints, and the average age was below 40 years old. What kind of terrifying power was this? Not only was Yi Fei shocked, all the martial artists who came to the land of buried gods for the first time were also shocked. Xia Jun even wanted to squeeze to the front to see the land of buried gods more carefully. But immediately, a half-saint expert sternly reprimanded Xia Jun. "What are you doing? You don't even know the rules of the land of buried gods. You Snow Wind Empire's martial artists are getting worse and worse." "What rules?" Yi Fei walked forward and asked. His gaze was sharp. Just a glance from him made this half-saint youth feel fear, as if he was facing death. Knowing that he had met an expert that he could not afford to offend, that person's attitude changed. He respectfully said, "In the land of buried gods, different martial artists have different areas. Ordinary martial artists have one area, half-saints have another area, young kings have another area, and young emperors have another area. No one is allowed to barge into any area." "For big areas? Who set this rule? How come I have never heard of it?" Yi Fei frowned. He did not expect the land of buried gods to have so many rules. "No one set this rule. This is something that we formed spontaneously. Dragons have their own ways, and rats have their own ways. Since you are weaker than others, then you should obediently step aside." Many other half-saints walked out from beside the half-saint youth. Their eyes were filled with arrogance, and their words were filled with provocation. After all, those who could participate in the Sky Liz Sovereign battle were all geniuses of their respective countries. They were all very arrogant. "Big brother, why don't we just forget about it and retreat?" Xia Jun suggested in a low voice. He only just realized that he had acted rashly. Retreat? On the path of martial arts, there is no retreat. If you take a step forward, you will be called a saint. If you take a step back, you won't even have a corpse left. Since there are no rules in the four big saint courts, then we can go wherever we want," Yi Fei said in a deep voice. His words made Xia Jun feel a little ashamed. "Big brother, I understand. I will never retreat in the future." After saying that, Xia Jun's aura also became fierce. In the past, he didn't have any goals. But after Yi Fei's words, Xia Jun actually had the demeanor of a saber master. Then, Lin Ying's disdainful laughter came from the back of the crowd. Ha ha, you're a cripple abandoned by the heavens. How are you going to progress on the path of martial arts? Your path has already been cut off. The current you is just a dead man. Yi Fei, since you are already a walking corpse, you shouldn't continue to stay here and embarrass our snow wind empire. Take a step back and bow your head to Bailey Zhan. Then you can still keep your life and fight for glory and wealth. If you continue to be stubborn, I'm afraid this burial ground of the gods will be your burial ground. Huang Feiying and Chen Wanli, the two geniuses, also walked out from the crowd. They were both half-saints, so naturally, they were also in the half-saints area. When they heard that Yi Fei was causing trouble here and wanted to force his way to the front, they naturally didn't mind ridiculing Yi Fei and winning Bailey Zhan's favor at the same time. As for Bailey Zhan, he directly went to the young king's area as soon as he entered, even though he wasn't a young king yet. But with his special bloodline and status as a preparatory disciple of the divine martial sacred court, Bailey Zhan was very dazzling even among the young kings. Chapter 986. The gathering of the emperors Yi Fei looked at Huang Feiying and the others as if he was looking at three clowns. Are you challenging me? He took a step forward and his eyes flashed coldly. Do you believe that I can kill all of you without entering the burial ground of the gods? Yi Fei, how dare you? Don't forget that this is the assessment hosted by the four great sacred courtyards. Countless martial sages and martial emperors are watching. Do you dare touch us? Lin Ying's expression changed. He had the lowest status here. If Yi Fei killed him, no one would stand up for him. How foolish. Once Lin Songhai dies, the Lin family will most likely be destroyed by Lin Ying. Jiang Cheng shook his head in the crowd. He was from a side branch of the royal family and did not dare to get close to Yi Fei. However, he did not dare to underestimate Yi Fei. This was why he was willing to put aside his hatred and befriend Yi Fei. Hearing Lin Ying's words, Yi Fei could not help but reveal a mocking expression. He laughed coldly and said, "Why wouldn't I dare? Anyway, you have already said that I am a dead man. Since I will die sooner or later, why don't I just kill the three of you? Then we won't be lonely on the road to hell." Boom! It was as if lightning had struck them. Lin Ying and the others were dumbfounded. If Yi Fei knew that he was going to die, he would drag the three of them down with him. Then they would die in vain. Lin Ying was so frightened that she could not say anything. She regretted it again. She should not have provoked Yi Fei without thinking. Especially Yi Fei. He might go crazy if he knew that he was going to die. Huang Feiying and Chen Wanli were sweating profusely. They regretted stepping on Yi Fei so quickly just to curry favor with Bailey Zhan. They shouted together, "Yi Fei, don't be arrogant. There are many people here who are more powerful than you." "I'm arrogant? Who's the arrogant one? Did I offend you? Why are you barking at me like a dog?" "Fine, since I'm going to die anyway, I'll go crazy today." Yi Fei's words were for the people from the four great sacred courtyards to hear. He wanted them to think that he had lost all hope of being abandoned by the heavens. That way, no one would stop him if he attacked. As expected, the mentors from the four great sacred courtyards hesitated when they heard Yi Fei. They did not immediately stop him. At this moment, Yi Fei's feet moved, and he rushed towards Lin Ying, Chen Wanli, and Huang Feiying at the same time. The three of them were scared silly. "Yi Fei, what are you doing? You actually dare to attack us in front of the martial sages and martial emperors of the four great sacred courtyards. I didn't expect him to be so crazy. Everyone, let's attack together and take him down." Huang Feiying and Chen Wanli wanted to resist, but Lin Ying was scared out of his wits. After all, he had seen Yi Fei defeat Bailey Zhan with his own eyes. How could his half-baked heavenly saber incantation resist Yi Fei's attack? Before he knew what was going on, Lin Ying felt a sharp pain all over his body. It was as if he had been slapped. His knees went weak, and he knelt on the ground. Then Lin Ying heard Yi Fei's indifferent voice. "Since you said that I'm arrogant, I'll show you how arrogant I am. The three of you, kneel here and wait for the land of buried gods to open." Boom! Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, 2 more screams were heard. Huang Feiying and Qin Wanli were also slapped to the ground by Yi Fei's palm. The spectators were in an uproar. This person was only in the earth-penetrating 10th stage. How could he make 3 half-sages kneel on the ground with a single slap? How terrifying was his combat strength? What kind of arrogant method was this, daring to commit such a crime in front of the 4 sacred academies? Yi Fei, how dare you treat us like this? You can kill us, but you can't humiliate us. Kill us now if you have the guts. Lin Ying and the other 2 were humiliated, especially when they saw the gazes of the people around them. They were so angry that they almost fainted. To think that you know what humiliation is. Why didn't you think of it when you were humiliating others? You can kill us, but you can't humiliate us. Yi Fei turned and left without looking at the 3 of them. Lin Ying and the other 2 were left. They screamed like ghosts. They were so angry that they knelt in front of the crowd. However, no one pitied them. Bailey Zhun didn't care about them either. This was the world of martial Dao. This was the power of the strong. Huang Feiying and Qin Wanli are idiots. They even dared to provoke a genius like Yi Fei. Looks like our Snow Wind Empire's 5 great sky prides will soon become 3 great sky prides. Ning Zhongxin shook his head coldly. He had lost to Yi Fei before, but he accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. Therefore, even if Yi Fei was found to be abandoned by the heavens, Ning Zhongxin only admired Yi Fei. He didn't hate him. On the other hand, the actions of Huang Feiying and the other 2 were stupid in the eyes of the true experts. Countless sky prides gathered in the burial god grounds. Things happened quickly and ended quickly. Many people didn't even know about it. Even if they knew, they wouldn't be interested in watching. Because when Yi Fei was dealing with Huang Feiying and the other 2, the true experts had already arrived. They were 6 dazzling young men. They walked side by side from afar. No one could block their sharpness, and no one dared to block their path. Wherever the 6 of them passed, the crowd would frantically disperse like a tide. It didn't matter if they were half-step saints or young kings. It's the North Fist Emperor and the South Spear Emperor. I didn't expect them to appear together. There's also the East Blade Emperor and the West Sword Emperor. They're mortal enemies. How can they walk side by side? The Polar Ice Emperor and the Great Desert Flame Emperor are here too. The 6 young emperors of the middle ground have finally gathered together. It seems like the burial god grounds is about to open. Boom! As the crowd discussed, the 6 young men were like dazzling suns. They didn't look at anyone but at each other. Then, they took a step forward and stepped towards the light of the burial god grounds. At the same time, a voice filled with the majesty of an emperor resounded in the sky. Gather the emperors, the gate of God opens. Sky prides gather, kings come out. As the voice faded, heaven and earth trembled as if a divine gate had been opened. A teleportation gate covered with countless runes slowly opened in front of everyone. The 6 emperors roared at the same time, and their bodies shone with boundless light. Ignoring everyone else, they shot through the gate like shooting stars, as if they were gods looking down on the world. Countless roars came out from the mouths of the young kings. Their radiance wasn't as bright as the 6 emperors, but the radiance of hundreds or even thousands of young kings gathered together was so dazzling that many martial artists couldn't open their eyes. Burial God grounds, open. The chance to make a great leap is right in front of us. Those who block me shall die. Kill, kill, kill. Killing was not prohibited in the burial God grounds. On the contrary, the 4 sacred academies encouraged such killing. The fiercer and more ruthless one was, the more the 4 sacred academies valued them. Therefore, as soon as the burial God grounds opened, the hundreds of thousands of young sky prides, who were still in harmony with each other, instantly broke out into a fierce battle. Many of them died tragically on the spot before they could even enter the burial God grounds. The most tragic ones were Lin Ying and the other 2. They were still trying to break free from Yi Fei's shackles. The surging crowd was like a tidal wave, pushing them to the ground. Countless shoes mercilessly trampled over their bodies and faces. When the crowd passed by, the 3 of them had been trampled beyond recognition. They were almost covered in blood. Only by listening to their voices could one tell who they were. Yi Fei, you bastard. As long as I, Lin Ying, am not dead, I will find a way to kill you in the burial god grounds. No, killing him is too easy. I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. I want him to have a taste of being trampled by thousands of people. PFFF. As they cursed, the three of them didn't care about the blood on their bodies. They rolled and crawled as they rushed into the burial god grounds. Bang! Chapter 987. The Strange Xia Junhoof. As a member of the Snow Wind Empire, he dares to attack a comrade in the land of buried gods. This Yi Fei is not only arrogant, but also daring. Through the crystal wall, Chen Wanli and the other two suffered a heavy loss. The Snow Wind Emperor saw it, and many great emperors might even treat it as a joke. Jiang Qiren's face was extremely ugly. The mentors of the Heavenly Tao Sacred Academy and the Heavenly Book Sacred Academy also shook their heads. Originally, they paid more attention to the 5 geniuses of the Snow Wind Empire. But when they saw Chen Wanli and the other two being trampled by thousands of people, the 2 mentors felt their faces hurt on the spot. They shook their heads and said, "It seems that the Sacred Academy can't accept these 2 unless they can kill Yi Fei and wash away the shame on them." Haha, kill Yi Fei. They're still too weak. But Bailey Zhen is very likely to do so. Bailey Zhen, don't let me down. Lu Ming sneered when he heard the words. He had already made full preparations for Yi Fei to pave the way for Bailey Zhen to join the Sacred Academy. After all, it was also a great merit for the mentors to recruit a super genius to join the Sacred Academy. When the 3 mentors talked, they deliberately avoided mentioning the Sacred Academy. It could be seen how seriously the Sacred Academy was excluded by the 4 Sacred Academies. However, this didn't stop the beautiful teacher from worrying about Yi Fei. Lu Ming is a narrow-minded person. Yi Fei offended him before and even threatened to kill Bailey Zhen, who Lu Ming thought highly of. Yi Fei might be in danger in the god burial ground. She couldn't stop Yi Fei from entering the land of buried gods. Yi Fei's identity as a person abandoned by the heavens was destined to make him rejected by all the Sacred Academies. Even if the Sacred Academy accepted Yi Fei, if Yi Fei couldn't show his strength, he still wouldn't be valued by the Sacred Academy. Only if Yi Fei performed well in the land of buried gods could he have a foothold in the Sacred Academy. I didn't expect the teleportation to be random. Doesn't that mean I've lost contact with Xia Jun and Lin Tianjiao? Inside the land of buried gods, Yi Fei looked at the blood-red ground around him and frowned. He wasn't worried about himself, but about the safety of Xia Jun and Lin Tianjiao. Little Fatty, on the other hand, was the son of the Beast King and was also blessed by the demon god. Yi Fei was not too worried that anything would happen to Little Fatty. Looks like I have to think of a way to find Xia Jun, Lin Tianjiao, and Little Fatty as soon as possible. He looked at the vast land again. Yi Fei prepared to soar into the sky and quickly find warriors to inquire about the situation. But what shocked him was that he could not fly in this blood-colored land. This ground has a very strong suction force. It can actually prevent me from flying into the sky. Yi Fei's expression turned ugly. He looked around, but could not see a single person. There was only blood-red soil everywhere. At the far end, he could vaguely make out a huge mountain peak. Maybe there's someone there. Yi Fei stared in the direction of the mountain peak, intending to go there and take a look. This was also the direction that many warriors headed in after entering the land of buried gods. For example, in the Boundless Land, sometimes a mountain peak would be the best foothold. After advancing for about an hour, Yi Fei was finally able to sense the auras of some of the martial artists. They were all in a hurry, as if someone was chasing them from behind. All of them were running faster than the wind, constantly running towards the distant mountain peaks. This was Yi Fei's first time entering the land of buried gods, and he came from the outer sea. Therefore, he wasn't aware of the dangers within. But when he saw many warriors running at full speed, Yi Fei unconsciously prepared to speed up. Of course, Yi Fei, who was moving forward, also attracted the attention of many warriors. Some people even recognized Yi Fei on the spot. He was the young man who ignored the sacred academy and attacked outside the land of buried gods. It turns out to be him. I heard that he offended Mentor Lu Ming of the Shenwu Sacred Academy. Mentor Lu Ming has already said that whoever can find clues about him and report it to Bailey Zhen or kill him will be able to join the Shenwu Sacred Academy unconditionally. What? There is such a thing. It's a pity that it's getting late. Yi Fei is not a simple person. Let's hurry to the mountain peak and come back with a long-term plan. As these martial artists discussed amongst themselves, they gradually left, avoiding Yi Fei as if he were a god of plague. Yi Fei had tried several times to go over and ask for some information, but the result was that the other party had left ahead of time without any intention of contacting him. Yi Fei couldn't help but be more depressed, just when he looked at the blood-red ground in front of him and felt that he didn't know where to start. Suddenly, a figure in the distance not only didn't avoid him, but also rushed straight toward him for a distance, and then turned back and rushed into the distance. The moment he saw the figure, Yi Fei's face suddenly surged with a thick surprise. It's Xia Jun. He actually teleported to this area. This is great. Xia Jun, wait for me. Yi Fei rushed over and wanted to stop Xia Jun. Xia Jun's reaction was very strange. Hearing Yi Fei's voice, Xia Jun seemed to hesitate and stopped. Then he suddenly screamed hysterically, "Don't come near me! Don't come near me! Help!" While screaming, the great Xia army quickly broke into a run and rushed towards the blood-red land in the distance. Yi Fei was stunned. When Xia Jun saw him, he not only didn't stop, but also screamed in horror. What's going on? Did something happen to Xia Jun? After all, Xia Jun was his underling. Although Yi Fei felt that Xia Jun's actions were very strange, he couldn't just leave him be. "Xia Jun, stop right there. What happened to you?" Yi Fei asked as he chased after Xia Jun. "Help! Help me, I don't want to die." Xia Jun continued to scream in fear and ran even faster at the same time. Yi Fei wanted to chase after him several times, but he soon realized that not only could he not fly on the blood-red ground, but he also couldn't use any secret techniques. Without any other choice, he could only run like an ordinary person, hoping to catch up to Xia Jun. However, Xia Jun was also running very fast, and the two were thousands of meters apart. In a short period of time, Yi Fei also couldn't catch up to him. It was even more impossible for him to find out what happened to Xia Jun vaguely. He had a very bad feeling. What happened to Xia Jun? Or is the person in front not Xia Jun at all? The land of buried gods was very dangerous. Anything could happen. Xia Jun didn't respond even after he shouted several times. He just ran crazily on the blood-red ground. Gradually, Yi Fei had such doubts in his heart, so he began to carefully distinguish whether the person running in front of him was Xia Jun or not. His voice was exactly the same. His aura was also exactly the same. This person is indeed Xia Jun. But why is he screaming for help? No matter how I call out to him, he doesn't respond. What happened to him? Yi Fei felt very strange and worried. Finally, he came to a decision. He activated the Demon Emperor Sutra and poured his battle demon power into his legs. Yi Fei immediately felt that the restrictions of the Crimson Earth on him had weakened significantly, and his speed had also risen to a new level. Chapter 988. Transin King. He can run so fast? Xia Jun's face revealed a trace of shock. Fortunately, after running for a period of time, he had already run to the side of his companions. In the distance, there were a dozen people standing in the open space. They were all half-saint youths. Most importantly, they came from the same empire. In the land of buried gods, it was very difficult for more than a dozen people to be teleported together. Of course, if they succeeded, they would have more than 10 familiar people working together. Whether it was exploring or fighting, they would have a considerable advantage in the early stages. Xia Jun stood in the middle of this group with his arms crossed. He coldly waited for Yi Fei to catch up. Yi Fei was not stupid. He saw that Xia Jun had lured him here and that there were more than a dozen people gathered here. His heart suddenly thumped. He had a bad feeling. However, the Xia Jun in front of him whether it was his voice, appearance, or aura, they were all real. Yi Fei could not determine whether the Xia Jun in front of him was real or fake. He could only ask tentatively, "Are you Xia Jun or not?" Ha ha! The dozen or so young warriors burst into laughter. "I'm not Xia Jun. I am Transin King Zhou Jun." Whoosh! Seeing that he had successfully lured Yi Fei over, Zhou Jun no longer bothered with his disguise. He swiped his hand across his face and suddenly took off a translucent silver mask, restoring his clean and handsome appearance. Even his aura changed in an instant. Yi Fei was shocked. A person could change their appearance, but not their aura. This Transin King Zhou Jun could not only take on the appearance of Xia Jun, but also imitate the aura of Xia Jun. Needless to say, the silver mask in his hand was a rare treasure. Rare treasures were not as good as Emperor artifacts, but they had many wonderful uses. "I see. You used this rare treasure to take on the appearance of Xia Jun to trick me. We have no enmity and we don't even know each other. Why did you trick me here?" Yi Fei was a little annoyed. He was too careless. The most important thing was that the rare treasure in Zhou Jun's hand was too magical. Even he was fooled. "Ha ha, why? Of course, to kill you." Zhou Jun smiled coldly and looked at Yi Fei sympathetically. "Yi Fei, don't blame me for being ruthless. You really shouldn't have offended Bailey Zhan and Minter Lu Ming. Minter Lu Ming has already said that whoever can help Bailey Zhan kill you in the God Burial Land can join the Divine Martial Sacred Academy unconditionally. Of course, with my talent, how can I show my ability by helping Bailey Zhan? He even asked me to personally carry your head and hand it to Instructor Lu." "Kill," Zhou Jun ordered coldly after he had finished speaking. He was also a young king-level expert. Although he was the weakest among the king-level experts, he still had more than a dozen semi-sage experts following him. What was even more fortunate was that this random teleportation had actually sent all of them to the same area, and they had even discovered Yi Fei at the first moment. Unsurprisingly, Zhou Jun's team had a huge advantage in the early stage. If a young king and a dozen half-saints joined forces, they could kill other young kings who were alone. This was why Zhou Jun found Yi Fei and immediately thought of killing Yi Fei, befriending Bailey Zhan, and pleasing Lu Ming of the Divine Martial Academy. Seeing more than a dozen semi-saints surrounding him at the same time, Yi Fei's heart sank. It was not surprising that Bailey Zhan wanted to deal with him, but a Sacred Academy instructor actually helped Bailey Zhan to deal with him, which was very infuriating. Needless to say, he must have defeated Bailey Zhan and rejected Lu Ming, which made Lu Ming want to kill him. After all, the Divine Martial Academy was now the first Sacred Academy. Since Lu Ming thought highly of Bailey Zhan, he certainly didn't want Bailey Zhan to join the Sacred Academy with the stain of defeat. Then his credit would be greatly reduced. The best way was to assist Bailey Zhan to kill Yi Fei in the Burial Land of Gods. Understanding this, Yi Fei suddenly burned with anger. He scolded fiercely. "Lu Ming, you asked Bailey Zhan to deal with me. I don't blame you, but you actually asked others to deal with me. As long as I don't die, I will teach your Divine Martial Academy a lesson." Ha ha, look at this idiot. He offended a Sacred Academy instructor. He is a dead man. How dare he say such words? This person's death is not to be regretted. Kill him. When young Master Zhou joins the Divine Martial Academy, we can also join the strongest Sacred Academy as his followers. That will be great. Kill. These semi-saints laughed. They didn't put Yi Fei in their eyes at all. As soon as the encirclement was completed, more than a dozen semi-saints burst out murderous intent at Yi Fei at the same time. Zhou Jun, the King of 100 Faces, put away his mask. He crossed his arms and stood outside, watching the show with a mocking expression. He was ready to strike at any moment and give Yi Fei a fatal blow. Death is not to be regretted? You are right. From now on, I swear that everyone who wants to join the Divine Martial Academy will be my target. Boom! In Yi Fei's eyes, there was an unprecedented murderous intent. This murderous intent faintly gave Zhou Jun a bad feeling. More than a dozen semi-saints didn't notice it yet. They were all holding their strength. More than a dozen terrifying martial Dao light had been mercilessly blasted at Yi Fei. Unless he was a young king, it was impossible to resist such an attack. Yi Fei was only at the earth-penetrating 10th layer. He hadn't even entered the semi-saint area. How could he resist the joint attack of more than a dozen semi-saints? It seems that I am overthinking. Zhou Jun shook his head with a smile. At this moment, kill. 10 terrifying primordial spirits suddenly burst out of Yi Fei's body, forming 10 terrifying black holes in the void. Endless sword fire swept in all directions like a rainstorm and angry arrows. Ah! Screams filled the air. Yi Fei actually ignored the attacks of more than a dozen half-sages. He was trading life for life, exchanging injury for injury. When these half-sages' attacks landed on his body, Yi Fei's body trembled. The endless sword fire had swallowed more than a dozen martial saints on the spot. Their corpses were everywhere. What? Zhou Jun was a little dumbfounded. He was a young king-level expert. Although he was at the bottom of the hierarchy, he couldn't kill more than a dozen semi-sage experts in an instant. How did Yi Fei do it? He was merely at earth-penetrating 10th heavenly layer. How could he possess the battle prowess comparable to a young king-level expert? Suddenly, Zhou Jun felt that he had kicked an iron plate. Bailey Zhen's defeat to Yi Fei was a stain. Lu Ming had already warned the Snow Wind Empire not to spread this news. Once Yi Fei was killed, this matter would be even less likely to be brought up. Therefore, Zhou Jun only heard that Yi Fei had offended Bailey Zhen and the mentors of the Shenwu Sacred Academy. He also saw that Yi Fei was just an ordinary martial artist of the earth-penetrating 10th layer. Therefore, he made a plan to ambush Yi Fei as soon as he found out about Yi Fei. He never expected that this ambush would result in the annihilation of his subordinates. Chapter 989. The Sky Darkened. Zhou Jun took advantage of the fact that Yi Fei was also being attacked by a dozen half-step saints. He believed that this was a good opportunity to kill Yi Fei. Zhou Jun didn't hesitate and used his strongest killing move. His legs soared into the air like the legs of a flood dragon. He kicked viciously at Yi Fei, who was covered in light. Dragon God's Kick. Heavenly Sword Art. Boom! Boom! A purple-gold figure suddenly walked out from the light that filled the sky. The resplendent sword light was as fast as lightning. It found the position of Zhou Jun's right leg and slashed down. How is this possible? Zhou Jun's purple complexion suddenly turned pale. Just now, Yi Fei had withstood the attacks of more than a dozen half-step saints. That kind of attack was enough to make a young king lose half of his life. Now, not only was Yi Fei not injured, but he was also able to counterattack so quickly. Suddenly, Zhou Jun regretted provoking Yi Fei. He wasn't stupid. If he still didn't understand that Yi Fei had the strength of a king, he might as well kill himself. Dragon God's Tooth. Zhou Jun was still a young king. He suddenly changed his move. 2 terrifying golden lights appeared on his legs. They were like the teeth of a dragon god. They bit down on Yi Fei's sword light. If it was an ordinary sword light, Zhou Jun's Dragon God's Tooth would have shattered it instantly. Unfortunately, this time, Yi Fei's sword light contained a purple-gold sword light. The power of despair made him feel despair, and made his opponent feel even more despair. Boom! The blood-red ground trembled. Yi Fei's sword light had slashed a huge hole in the ground. The strange thing was that hot blood was flowing out of the hole. Then, Zhou Jun's miserable shriek drew Yi Fei's attention back. My leg! You actually destroyed my emperor-grade battle boots. Zhou Jun was angry, scared, in pain, and relieved. If it wasn't for his cunning nature and the fact that he had specially forged a pair of emperor-grade battle boots, Yi Fei's sword would have been enough to cut off Zhou Jun's legs. It wouldn't have just sliced off a large piece of flesh from Zhou Jun's leg. Sizzle. When the piece of flesh fell to the ground, a sucking sound came from underground. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Jun's flesh disappeared without a trace. Sizzle. The sucking sounds became even more intense. Yifei's hair stood on end when he saw that it wasn't just Zhou Jun's flesh that was being sucked away. The corpses of the half-saints he had killed on the ground were also disappearing quickly and mysteriously. It was as if there were invisible hands beneath the ground that tore the corpses apart and devoured them, leaving only a pool of dark red blood, proving that there were corpses here. What's going on? The ground is bleeding, and there seems to be something strange underground? The situation was too strange. Yifei did not dare to hold back anymore. He held his Imperial Saint's sword and rushed towards Zhou Jun as fast as he could, wanting to kill him. Seeing the strange situation on the ground, Zhou Jun finally woke up from his fear. He pointed at Yifei with a frightened and resentful expression. Yifei, I won't let you off. Even if I can't take your head, I'll make sure you die without a burial place. As he spoke, Zhou Jun took out a flag and threw it towards Yifei. Then he turned around and ran away. Where are you going? The sword radiance was dazzling like a meteor chasing after the moon, slashing towards Zhou Jun's back. However, the flag Zhou Jun threw out suddenly exploded. Countless mysterious runes appeared in the void and fell to the ground around. Rumble. The ground shook violently. A strange spatial vortex surrounded Yifei instantly. Even Yifei's purple gold sword radiance could not completely break this strange spatial trap. The sword radiance dimmed halfway through its release. Damn it, I thought this was a good opportunity for me to join the Divine Martial Arts Academy. I didn't expect to suffer such a great loss. Not only did I not get Yifei's head, but I also lost my biggest life-saving trump card. That's right, that flag was Zhou Jun's final trump card. Once it was used, it could create a spatial vortex and form a spatial trap to trap the enemy. It was just that spatial traps were extremely rare. Zhou Jun had only obtained one from the emperor of his empire after becoming a young king. Originally, he had planned to use it to protect himself against powerful enemies in the land of buried gods. However, he had wasted it on Yifei. Zhou Jun was so angry that his face turned completely purple. However, when he saw the gradually darkening sky and the gradually rising stench of blood on the blood-colored ground, Zhou Jun suddenly shivered. It was as if there was something on the ground looking at him, coldly staring at his thigh that was missing a piece of flesh. Yifei, I'll let you experience the terror of the land of buried gods in the endless darkness. With hatred and fear, Zhou Jun could no longer care about Yifei. Seeing that the sky had darkened, all the warriors who were still on the bloody ground rushed towards the nearest mountain with all their might. Rumble, rumble, rumble. On the bloody ground, sword lights flashed and roared. Yifei used all his strength to activate the Imperial Sacred Sword. Terrifying sword lights shattered the void. However, he was still unable to destroy this strange spatial vortex in a short period of time. The spatial trap was still trapping him. If he wanted to capture Zhou Jun and interrogate him about how Lu Ming and Bailey Zhen dealt with him, he had to break free from this trap and catch up to Zhou Jun. I don't believe that I can't deal with a small spatial trap when I can even defeat Bailey Zhen. Heaven Sword Art / Rumble. After several consecutive sword lights failed to slash through the spatial vortex, Yifei simply turned his body into a sword. The continuous sword lights were like meteors and hurricanes. They continuously slashed at the spatial vortex in front of him. 1 slash, 2 slashes, 10 slashes, 20 slashes, 30 slashes. Yifei used a total of 30 sword strikes to completely shatter the distorted space vortex and reappear on the blood-red ground. His eyes couldn't help but show horror. The geniuses of the Central State really can't be underestimated. If every young king has such a life-saving method, how can I kill them? 30 breaths of time was very short, but it was enough for Zhou Jun to run away. But the monk can run away, but the temple can't run away. If Zhou Jun doesn't want to sleep on this bloody ground at night, there's only one place for him to go. The mountain in the distance. Yifei stared at the mountain in the distance that was gradually turning dark. His eyes were faintly flashing with coldness. Since Zhou Jun dared to plot against him, Yi Fei would never let this person go. At the same time, Yi Fei was a little worried. Since Lu Ming and Bailey Zhan attacked him, it was inevitable that they would attack Xia Jun, Lin Tianjiao, and the little fatty. After all, Lu Ming was a teacher of the Sacred Academy. Once he spoke, there would definitely be many martial artists who wanted to join the Sacred Academy, like Zhou Jun. They would continuously come to deal with him. I must find Xia Jun and the others as soon as possible. Yi Fei's face became a little dignified. At this time, the sky was already dark. He couldn't even see his own fingers. Faintly, Yi Fei felt that something was wrong with the bloody ground under his feet, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Chapter 990. Strange red hair cries for help rang out one after another. Since the teleportation of the burial god grounds was random, some were close to the mountain range, while some were far away. These martial artists were all desperately running towards the vague outline of the mountain range. It seemed that as long as they could rush into the mountain range, they would be safe. After careful observation, Yi Fei was shocked to discover that these martial artists who were crying for help were not targeting him. They were just pretending to be panicked. Many of their cries were filled with fear from the bottom of their hearts. What happened? Why are you crying for help when it's dark? Yi Fei rushed over and stopped a martial artist who was madly running towards the mountain range. Realizing that he was being held back, the martial artist's eyes turned red. He panicked and shouted at Yi Fei, "Let go of me. When it's dark in the burial god grounds, there will be a great calamity. I haven't joined the sacred court yet. I don't want to die." He was still speaking. The martial artist subconsciously looked at his own chest. Yi Fei also looked at the martial artist's bloody chest. He obviously hadn't done anything, but there was actually a large hole in the martial artist's chest. It was dripping with blood, and there was even a strand of red hair that was soaked in blood. It was dazzling to the eye. Dong! The martial artist did not say anything. His eyes were wide open, filled with confusion and fear. He died on the spot. Gulyalu. When the martial artist fell to the ground, Yi Fei was finally able to clearly see how the martial artist's corpse disappeared. Beneath the ground, there were actually countless red insects. Like lines, they quickly dragged the martial artist's corpse to the ground. Cries of pain still rang out from all directions. The sky had also completely darkened. This time, it was really dark. All the martial artists who did not manage to rush up the mountain range before dark all screamed and fell to the ground. Without exception, a bloody hole had been dug into their bodies, causing them to die on the spot. Strangely enough, Yi Fei went to the 3 locations where the screams were coming from, but he did not see anything out of the ordinary. There were no corpses or monsters. Only this bloody land was becoming more and more viscous like mud, making it difficult to walk on. This gave Yi Fei the illusion that what he was standing on was not a piece of land, but a piece of viscous flesh that was constantly wriggling. Then, Yi Fei was shocked by his own thoughts. The entire ground was made of flesh and blood. How was that possible? Yi Fei had seen many strange places, but a strange place like the land of buried gods still made his hair stand on end. Especially the few martial artists he found who had died tragically. No matter how fast their corpses disappeared, there would always be a strange red hair left on the ground. In the invisible night, Yi Fei felt as if there were pairs of eyes coldly staring at him. More accurately, they were staring at his flesh and blood. This land of buried gods is too strange. I better hurry up to the mountain peak and ask about the situation. Hearing the screams coming from all around him, Yi Fei did not dare to stay on this bloody land any longer. The strange corpse bugs, the silent slaughter. He finally understood how terrifying the night in the land of buried gods was. It wasn't easy to get to this point. I don't want to die here for no reason. Hurry up and run. The faster I run, the better. Rumble. Within his flesh and blood, his blood and qi churned like a river. Yi Fei urged all of his primordial spirit to run as fast as he could in the direction of the mountain range. At this time, the sky was completely dark. He could not even see his own fingers. Therefore, Yifei did not notice that just before he sped up, suddenly, a sharp claw covered in red hair appeared behind him and silently dug towards his back. Whoosh! The sharp claw dug into nothing. At this time, Yifei had already sped up and rushed into the distance, leaving behind a red whirlwind where he stood. Strange. Why did I feel so scared just now? Yifei suppressed the irritation in his heart. Halfway through his run, he suddenly turned back. His eyes were sharp and emitted a dazzling sword light that swept across a radius of dozens of meters behind him. In the end, he didn't see anything. All he saw was a vast expanse of blood, as well as a blood-red mist that rose from the ground with gurgling sounds. Could it be that I am overthinking? No. Whoosh! In a flash, Yifei's head suddenly turned back. This time, his battle instincts told him that danger had appeared in front of him. It was only a meter away from his body. Purple gold taiji. Without thinking, Yifei's body burned with purple gold flames, protecting his entire body. Chi-chi. In the burning flames, Yifei smelled a burnt smell. In front of his eyes, a strand of burning red hair fell to the ground. On his black purple gold robe, there was a black bloody claw mark on his chest. There seems to be other monsters on this blood-red land, besides the string corpse worm. Yifei's eyes were filled with seriousness. To be able to break through his perception and quickly close in on him, it was less than a meter away. This monster was very strong. Luckily, I have comprehended my battle instincts. If it were any other warrior, they would not be able to withstand such a silent sneak attack. Yifei lowered his head and looked at the half-burnt red hair on the ground. He bent down and wanted to pick up the hair on the ground to identify the monster that had ambushed him. It was also at this moment that a red whirlwind appeared behind Yifei without a sound. Within the whirlwind, another jet-black blood claw was digging towards Yifei's back. The monster in the dark did not give up. Anyone who was exposed in the dark was a target to be hunted, no matter how strong that person was. Death struck silently. Strangely, Yifei did not sense anything strange this time. He bent down and picked up the strand of red hair. Just as he was about to observe it, bam! The bloody claw behind him immediately sped up and dug towards Yifei's heart. At this moment, Yifei bent down and turned around. Suddenly, he gave a spinning kick to the ground. The sword aura that he had long condensed passed through his legs and formed a terrifying blade aura that caused ripples to appear in the air. Do you think you can succeed in 2 consecutive sneak attacks? You are underestimating my battle instincts. After the kick, Yifei immediately turned around. He wanted to see if the one who had ambushed him was a human or a monster. However, the result left him stunned. There was nothing behind him. There was no enemy or monster. It was as if his danger perception was an illusion. What the blade aura kicked was also air. No, there must be a monster staring at me. It's just that this monster is too strange. I can't see it, nor can I hurt it. Yifei lowered his head. When he saw a strand of red hair that had been broken in half, he felt a chill run down his spine. Could it be that I really met a ghost? Yifei looked around and stood still. However, he did not sense any danger. There was only endless darkness that completely enveloped him. Chapter 991. Resurrection of the Dead Under the Night Sky. On the bloody ground, Yifei kept running. He could clearly hear the sound of his heart beating violently. He hadn't run like a normal person for a long time. However, the blood-colored land was just that strange. In this place, one could not fly, nor could they use secret techniques. The only thing a martial artist could rely on was their own physique and a little bit of luck. Whoever was closer to the mountain range would have a higher chance of survival. For example, Yifei was too far away from the mountain range, so he could only run all the way. On the way, he kept hearing all kinds of screams and cries for help, but Yifei didn't care at all. He had been targeted by the monster. This monster is invisible, but it can break through my perception time and time again. It's no wonder that when I entered the land of buried gods, everyone I saw was running towards the mountain range. Yifei's expression was grave. At first, he thought that he had offended the teachers of the Sacred Institute, so everyone kept a respectful distance from him. So they ran when they saw him. Now that he thought about it, the reason they ran so quickly was because they wanted to reach the nearest mountain range before nightfall. It was obvious that all the martial artists that entered the Burial God Land knew about the dangers of the Burial God Land after nightfall. However, no one had warned him. There are only two possibilities. Either someone forgot to warn me, or someone deliberately didn't warn me. The possibility of the latter is higher. Yifei's eyes suddenly flashed with anger. If someone really did that, then it was very likely that only two people would target him. One was Lu Ming, and the other was the Snow Wind Emperor, Jiang Qianren. It can't be Lu Ming. Although I offended him, Lu Ming hoped that Bailey Zhan would personally defeat me and take back the lost glory. If he used the land of buried gods to harm me, it wouldn't be good for Lu Ming and Bailey Zhan. Then the most likely person to hide it from me should be the Snow Wind Emperor, Jiang Qianren. Yifei's face gradually became cold. These emperors are really realistic. When they knew that I was useful, they desperately supported me. Once they found out that I was abandoned by the heavens and was useless to the Snow Wind Empire, they immediately kicked me away. It seems that Jiang Qianren really thinks of me as a dead man. In that case, let's wait and see. With a trace of unhappiness, Yifei continued to run towards the mountain range in the distance. The mountain range was getting closer and closer, but strangely, he couldn't see the shadow of the mountain range. No matter how fast he ran, the surroundings were still pitch black. From beginning to end, there was a cold gaze staring at him, silently mocking him. The more he ran, the more he felt that something was wrong. Strange, with my speed, I should be there in half an hour. Ghost. Yifei thought of a rumor that he often heard in the future. His scalp started to tingle. An enemy in the dark was the most terrifying. Moreover, this enemy was invisible and formless. He didn't even know who the enemy was. This won't do. If I continue to run, I will only waste my true essence. I must think of a way to force the monster in the dark to appear. Only by figuring out what the opponent was could he make a corresponding battle plan. Ha! After running for a while, Yifei pretended that he didn't know. Suddenly, he fell to the ground with a paw. The blood-colored ground suddenly wriggled quickly when Yifei fell. Countless corpse worms crazily rushed out. It felt as if countless red hairs were growing on a corpse. It made one's hair stand on end. Red hairs, could it be? Lying on the ground, Yifei saw the transformation of the blood-colored ground with his own eyes. Faintly, he guessed something, but before he could figure it out, without a sound, countless hands quickly reached out from the blood-red ground. Like pincers, they grabbed his hands and legs and dragged him into the ground with all their might. What's that? The monster is underground? Yifei's eyes narrowed. His fall was just an illusion. It was to lure the monster out. When he realized that there were hands and feet on the ground, Yifei's body suddenly emitted a dazzling sword light. It lit up the entire night sky like the sun. It also pierced the ground and wriggled. A sticky blood-like mud splashed out. In the mud, Yifei finally saw the monster that had tried to sneak an attack on him. It was three people who were already dead. They were more than a dozen half-sages who had followed Zhou Jun. They had been personally killed by Yifei. Yifei had never imagined that the monster underground would be them. They are clearly dead. How can they be revived? No, they're not the monster that sneaked an attack on me. When he saw the three people, Yifei was first shocked. Then, he suddenly realized something. The thing that had sneaked an attack on him was the dark red blood claw, not the three bloody palms. He was plotting against the monster in the dark, but the monster in the dark was plotting against him as well. Obviously, he had been tricked. I was actually tricked by the monster. Yifei was both shocked and angry. He finally realized the mystery and horror of the land of buried gods. No wonder the four sacred academies would use this place as a place to test their disciples. The land of buried gods was definitely more dangerous than any of the dangerous places Yifei had experienced. At the same time, Anyone who could survive such a dangerous place was an elite among elites. They were worthy of the Sacred Academy's great efforts to nurture them. Sword chi like a mountain. Suppress it. Boom. Realizing that the monster in the dark must be very intelligent, Yi Fei did not hesitate. The moment he realized this, the whistling sword chi on his body had already condensed into a mountain. It mercilessly pressed down on him and his surroundings. Anyway, he had the purple gold taiji on him. He was invulnerable to all attacks. The sword chi could not hurt him. However, if the monster was hiding around him, the mountain-like sword chi would definitely make the monster suffer. Boom! The mountain-like sword chi pressed down mercilessly. The sword radiance drowned Yi Fei. At the same time, the monster in the dark howled. Faced with Yi Fei's suicidal attack, the monster in the dark was a little dumbfounded. It released the sword chi and attacked itself instead of the enemy. Yi Fei was playing with his life. Whoosh, whoosh, a blood-red whirlwind suddenly appeared on the flat ground. In the whirlwind, a blurry, bloody claw could be vaguely seen. It was about to disappear. Where are you going? Boom. The mountain of suppressed swords suddenly exploded. Yi Fei, with the purple gold taiji, walked out of the mountain of swords unscathed. He picked up the Emperor-based Saint's sword and chased after the monster. It was not easy for him to use the trick of injuring himself to lure out the monster in the dark. Yi Fei was determined to chop the monster into 8 pieces to vent his anger. In his anger, Yi Fei did not notice that when he was chasing after the red whirlwind in front of him, a bloody claw with red hair suddenly appeared on his shoulder. It silently grabbed his neck. Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 992. Xiao Qiao unleashes her might. Yi Fei felt a chill on his neck. Yi Fei immediately stopped in his tracks. A sword-like pillar, as thick as a water bucket, surged from his body in an attempt to shake off the strange monster that was grabbing at him. Kiki! A sinister laugh came from behind him. The monster did not retreat. The sword energy that Yi Fei released actually pierced through the void behind him and hit nothing. At the same time, the bloody claw that was grabbing at his neck began to exert force. Yi Fei's hair stood on end this time. It did not have a physical body, but it could produce a deadly bloody claw. What kind of monster was hiding on this bloody land? Battle demon golden body. Realizing that his sword energy was useless, Yi Fei decisively activated the power of the battle demon in an attempt to block the bloody claw that was gradually exerting force. However, the monster behind him was too strange. It had clearly made up its mind to kill Yi Fei. The bloody claw exerted even more force. Without turning his head, Yi Fei could feel that the back of his neck was bleeding. Not only does this monster come and go without a trace, its bloody claw can even break through my battle demon golden body. Yi Fei's hair stood on end. He was about to use all his strength to shake off the formless monster behind him. Ha! Sensing danger, a green vine whip suddenly appeared on Yi Fei's left shoulder and lashed at the bloody claw. It's Xiao Qiao. That girl is finally willing to wake up. Yi Fei was pleasantly surprised. He knew how powerful Xiao Qiao's vine whip was. Even the dragon tortoise was beaten by Xiao Qiao to the point of doubting its life, let alone the formless monster on the bloody land. Xiao Qiao's whip lashed out. The bloody claw that was grabbing at Yi Fei's neck suddenly disappeared. A faint, angry roar came from the red whirlwind. The monster was very angry. It was about to break through Yi Fei's defense when the vine whip suddenly appeared and hurt it. Woo 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 woo. A fierce red whirlwind suddenly appeared on the bloody ground. Yi Fei could vaguely see pairs of cold eyes staring at him mercilessly from within the whirlwind. It felt as if they were not staring at him, but at a pile of fresh flesh. However, no matter how hard Yi Fei tried, he still could not see clearly what kind of monster was hidden in the whirlwind. All Yi Fei saw was a whirlwind passing by and red hair falling down like snowflakes. At the same time, a blood claw suddenly appeared in front of Yi Fei. It's the monster that attacked me the first time. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a cold light, but before he could do anything, Xiao Chao had already rushed out of the beast-marked space on the back of the dragon turtle. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Xiao Chao held his vine whip and smashed the bloody claw that was approaching Yi Fei. Then he stood on the back of the dragon turtle with his hands on his hips and his head held high. He looked like he was going to negotiate with the monster here. Yi Fei's face darkened when he saw this. Suddenly, a strange thought came to his mind. Could it be that Xiao Chao knew the monster here? Woo 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 woo. The whirlwind became even more violent. Not only did the monster in front return, the monster that was injured by Xiao Chao also rushed back. Two red whirlwinds suddenly appeared in the air around them. In the whirlwind, two pairs of cold eyes stared at Yi Fei and then at Xiao Chao. Without a doubt, they still had no intention of letting Yi Fei go. They also ignored Xiao Chao's warning. Xiao Chao's first negotiation failed. Xiao Chao inexplicably felt wronged. Then, the two monsters that were hidden in the whirlwind suddenly stretched out their bloody claws at the same time. However, they didn't grab Yi Fei. Instead, they grabbed at Xiao Chao. Xiao Chao, be careful. Yi Fei was obviously worried. After all, these monsters were too strange. They appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Seeing that the monsters dared to attack him, Xiao Chao's red face suddenly showed anger. She puffed up her cheeks and swung her ponytail. Pa-pa-pa. The vine whip that made the dragon turtle tremble in fear appeared again. This time, it wasn't just one whip, but two. Xiao Chao held them in her hands and threw them at the monsters one after another. In the red whirlwind, the monsters screamed again. Then they roared. Xiao Chao's interference had completely angered the monsters in the whirlwind. Yi Fei was shocked to see two pairs of angry and cold eyes in the two whirlwinds for the first time. Were those the eyes of humans? Woo 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 woo. The darkness in the sky dissipated a lot. On the blood-colored ground, the red whirlwinds became more and more frightening and dense. Following Xiao Chao's appearance, more red whirlwinds rushed over from all directions. There were also countless pairs of cold eyes in the whirlwinds. Yi Fei felt his scalp go numb. He felt that the monsters on the blood-colored ground were too sinister. After realizing that they couldn't defeat Xiao Chao, they actually called for help. Xiao Chao, it's up to you. I'll buy you some candied haws later. Hearing that there was candied haws, Xiao Chao's saliva flowed out. After sleeping for so long, she was really hungry. Therefore, Xiao Chao looked at the whirlwinds around him again. Suddenly, his gaze became much sharper. The vine whip in his hand instantly turned into two rainbow-colored streams of light. Pa-pa-pa-pa. The vine whip was flung everywhere. The seemingly random attack had an extremely shocking effect in Yi Fei's eyes. When Xiao Chao's vine whip was flung out, no matter how fast the monsters hidden in the whirlwinds dodged, they would be accurately hit by the vine whip. In the whirlwinds, the monsters' angry and frightened screams could be faintly heard. The dragon turtle's eyes were filled with endless sympathy for the monsters. It used to be a free turtle. Unfortunately, ever since it met Xiao Chao, its turtle life had been full of ups and downs. Thinking of this, the dragon turtle let out a sigh. Then, Yi Fei took the opportunity to kick it. You're just a turtle. What are you sighing for? Xiao Chao has already made a move. Why aren't you moving? Roar. The mighty Basha ferocious demon was actually kicked by Yi Fei like a stool. The dragon turtle was instantly enraged. However, when it saw Xiao Chao's vine whip, it decisively decided not to lower itself to the level of a mortal like Yi Fei. Instead, it vented its anger on the surrounding red whirlwinds. The dragon turtle opened its mouth, and terrifying dragon flames erupted like magma from a volcano. The red pillar of flames burned the void into a fiery red cloud. With the help of the light from the cloud, the darkness was finally dispelled. At this moment, Yi Fei finally saw the true face of the red whirlwinds. It turned out that they weren't whirlwinds at all. Instead, they were strange whirlwinds formed by bloodline corpse worms. In the boundless darkness, they drilled out from the blood-colored ground and formed red threads that densely covered the entire blood-colored ground. Every time, Xiao Qiao destroyed a red whirlwind. The surrounding blood-red ground would immediately squirm like flesh and blood, and even more blood thread corpse worms would come out. This kind of feeling was like a piece of rotten flesh with countless red hair growing on top of it. These red hairs fluttered in the wind and gathered together to form the unique red whirlwinds of the blood-colored ground. The monsters were hidden in the whirlwinds. They couldn't be killed or driven away. The bloodline corpse worms were everywhere on the blood-colored ground. Similarly, the red whirlwinds were everywhere. No matter how Yi Fei ran, he couldn't avoid the whirlwinds formed by the bloodline corpse worms. Chapter 993. Going up the mountain, Yi Fei's expression was very serious. Although Xiao Qiao's vine whip could continuously destroy the approaching whirlwinds, Yi Fei could tell that the monsters in the whirlwinds had a strong desire to kill him. Xiao Qiao would not be able to stop them. More importantly, the bloody land was endless. In other words, the monsters hidden in the bloody land were also endless. No matter how strong Xiao Qiao's vine whip was, it would get tired after a long time. The monsters in the dark would only need to wait for Xiao Qiao to show signs of fatigue before swarming him. The consequences, just thinking about it, made Yi Fei feel a chill down his spine. As for the dragon tortoise, Yi Fei had no hope at all. Just like him, the dragon tortoise's dragon flame did not do any damage to the monsters hidden in the whirlwinds other than illuminating the surroundings. Other than Xiao Qiao's vine whip, the monsters in the whirlwinds were almost immortal. No wonder no one dared to stay at the foot of the mountain after entering the land of buried gods. The land of buried gods is really dangerous. More and more red whirlwinds gathered around them. If they were trapped here, they could only wait for death. Yi Fei immediately called Xiao Qiao back and said, "Xiao Qiao, don't get entangled with them. Can you think of a way to help me find the nearest mountain peak?" After dark, the visibility in the land of buried gods was very low. In addition, the monsters were secretly obstructing him. Without using secret techniques, Yi Fei could not determine the exact location. Xiao Qiao was different. She was very sensitive to spiritual energy. The mountain range where a large group of warriors gathered had abundant spiritual energy. She did not need to worry about being confused by the monsters. Squeak, squeak. Hearing Yi Fei's words, Xiao Qiao obediently put away her vine whip and ran back. She nimbly sat on Yi Fei's shoulder and grabbed the dragon tortoise by its tail. She then forced the dragon tortoise to continuously spit out dragon flame and used it as a free lantern to illuminate the way. Yi Fei immediately broke out in a cold sweat. However, with the dragon tortoise as a lantern, he did not need to worry about being unable to see the path and missing the mountain peak. Woo 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 woo. Sensing that Yi Fei was trying to escape, the surrounding red whirlwinds became even more restless. But because they were afraid of Xiao Qiao's vine whip, no more bloody claws came out of the whirlwind. But this did not mean that the monster in the whirlwind was going to let Yi Fei off so easily. The flesh and blood of living humans was a fatal attraction to them. In the whirlwind, the strange laughter of the monsters rang out again. It was as if they were mocking Yi Fei for overestimating himself and struggling. On the blood-red ground, the mud had already turned into blood. This was a piece of rotten flesh, and a large number of blood thread corpse worms were crawling out from the gaps in the flesh. They grew with the wind. It felt as if countless terrifying corpse hair had suddenly grown out of the piece of rotten flesh. The red hair was densely packed and shone with a demonic and ferocious bloody light. The dragon turtle could not help but feel a chill down its spine when it saw them. It was also targeted by countless monsters. It was Baxia, a ferocious demon, after all. Xiao Qiao, use your vine whip. When you see something approaching, hit it with all your strength. Yi Fei hurriedly instructed Xiao Qiao. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Qiao looked at the wild red hair growing around her. A look of disdain flashed across her eyes. She waved her two small hands, and a rainbow-colored spiritual wind blew around Yi Fei's body. It was strange. Even his sword energy could not completely destroy the red hair. But after Xiao Chao's gentle rainbow-colored spiritual wind blew past it, the hair formed by the blood-thread corpse worms disappeared like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. Yi Fei was surprised to find that the blood-thread corpse worms did not have a physical form. They were formed by a strange black gas. The black gas exuded an extremely evil aura. When he felt that aura, Yi Fei felt as if his life was slipping away. What a strange burial ground of the gods. Could it be that the blood-thread corpse worms and the monsters in the whirlwind are all formed by corpse chi? Could it be that this bloody land is a bloody corpse? If that was the case, it would be too terrifying. From the whirlwind behind them, low growls of monsters could be heard from time to time. But with Xiao Chao's rainbow-colored spiritual wind, Yi Fei did not have to worry about it at all. When he saw a huge white mountain not far away, Yi Fei happily stroked Xiao Chao's braids and said, "Xiao Chao, well done." Xiao Chao raised her head and puffed out her chest when she heard Yi Fei praise her. She did not go back. Instead, she sat on Yi Fei's shoulder and counted her little hands and feet. In the end, she even counted the dragon turtle's claws. Yi Fei's face immediately darkened. He knew that Xiao Chao was calculating how many monsters she had defeated and how many candied haws he should buy for her. Yi Fei felt helpless. Where could he go to buy such things in the burial ground of the gods? If I had known, I would have changed the reward. Wouldn't it have been better if I had just given some spirit stones? Yi Fei shook his head and walked up the mountain that was too white. At the foot of the mountain, the rolling red whirlwind had also caught up. But when it saw Yi Fei walk up the mountain, the whirlwind slowly retreated into the night. It seems that this white mountain has some kind of restriction that could deter the monsters on the bloody land from approaching. Yi Fei turned his head, and a look of understanding flashed in his eyes. Then, he scanned the mountain with his divine consciousness. He had already roughly explored the mountain. There were many cultivators' auras on it, but some of them seemed a little strange. Who cares? There are so many people here. I'll go over and get some information while I'm at it. And that kid Zhou Jun, he must be hiding on this mountain too. After witnessing the horror of the burial ground of the gods after dark, even he had a slim chance of survival, let alone the injured Zhou Jun. If he wanted to live, he had to come here. It just so happened that he could get to know Zhou Jun better here. Since he wants to take my head to curry favor with Bailey Zhen and the Shenwu Sacred Academy, he must be prepared to die. After letting Xiao Chao return to the beastmark space, Yi Fei's face was filled with killing intent. He carried the Emperor-based Saint Sword and stepped into a cave on the mountain. The cave was very big and could accommodate at least a few hundred people. Because they knew the horror of the burial ground of the gods after dark, many people who entered the cave in advance had set up a very powerful defensive formation at the entrance of the cave to prevent monsters from rushing up the mountain and into the cave. Yi Fei went over and was naturally blocked by the formation at the entrance of the cave. He couldn't help but frown. Because he didn't know what dangers there were in the burial ground of the gods, he couldn't just destroy the formation at the entrance of the cave. So he could only be patient and shout inside. "The people inside, please let me in." Yi Fei's voice was very sharp. Knowing that there was an enemy like Zhou Jun in there, he had to change his identity temporarily. He even used the secret skill of heaven and earth transformation that Hu Yanchao had taught him. Although this secret skill was not as good as Zhou Jun's unique treasure mask, it was not a problem to fool ordinary powerful figures. Chapter 994. Another person. Who is it? It's already been 6 hours, and there's still someone who can rush up the mountain? Even if this person isn't a king, he must be a genius. We can't offend him. Offend my ass. Before you came in, didn't you hear your elders say that you must go up the mountain when it's dark? No matter what happens outside, don't bother with it. Who knows if it's a person or a monster outside? The dangers of the burial land of gods made any young cultivator sensitive and careful. For someone like Yi Fei who went up the mountain when it was dark, it undoubtedly made many people more vigilant. Some people were worried and used the crystal wall to spy on Yi Fei. When they saw that the person shouting was an unfamiliar earth-penetrating 10th layer cultivator, they were relieved. So if it's an earth-penetrating 10th layer brother, why don't we just let him in? Come in? You may want to die, but we don't. Don't forget where this is. According to our ancestors, the space we entered is the burial ground of a martial god of the human race. Anything strange can happen here. Who can guarantee that there isn't a monster outside tempting us? Right, let's ask him first. That person's words made the youths who were already terrified of the burial land of gods even more careful. However, before they could confirm Yi Fei's identity, they didn't dare to openly reject Yi Fei. In the end, those who were lucky enough to survive after dark were either experts or people who had treasures that could save their lives. May I ask where this brother is from? Which country are you from? In the cave, a cultivator transmitted his voice to the outside through the crystal wall. Snow Wind Empire, a loose cultivator from the outer seas. Yi Fei said in a sharp voice. He had a look of lingering fear on his face. What? Snow Wind Empire? Yi Fei's reply caused Zhou Jun, who was still recuperating in the cave, to suddenly become nervous. It was only when he saw an unfamiliar face in the crystal wall that he let out a sigh of relief. However, he didn't dare to lower his guard. Yi Fei caused him to lose his life-saving treasure and his leg to suffer an unimaginable injury. At this moment, not only was Zhou Jun filled with hatred for Yi Fei, but he also hated all the warriors in the Snow Wind Empire. Hearing this, Zhou Jun immediately stood up and stopped the young cultivator who was about to open the array. Wait, it's already dark. If he can't come in, then he's doomed to die. We can't kill everyone in the cave because of one person. No, since he has already revealed his identity. Even though our Snow Wind Empire is weak, we can't just stand by and do nothing when our comrade is in trouble. It turned out that there were also a few Snow Wind Empire's martial artists in the cave. When they heard Yi Fei's identity, they wanted to lure Yi Fei in. Zhou Jun's face instantly turned ferocious and terrifying. You're courting death. Your Snow Wind Empire isn't just a third-rate empire. In my eyes, you guys are even worse than trash. You dare to go against the will of a young king like me? Puff, 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 puff. Zhou Jun attacked viciously. With 3 fingers, he had already killed 3 Snow Wind Empire's martial artists on the spot. He also intimidated the other martial artists into not daring to act rashly. In the end, they were all from other empires. It was not worthwhile for them to offend a young king like Zhou Jun for a stranger. Even though Zhou Jun was injured and his leg was wrapped in a thick cloth, no one dared to look down on the battle strength of a young king. Very quickly, someone came back to his senses and smiled fawningly at Zhou Jun. Young Master Zhou is right. Be careful. The Snow Wind Empire is originally a third-rate empire. It's not worthwhile for us to put all 175 people in danger for an insignificant person. 175 people? Didn't we have 174 people? Why is there one more? When a warrior heard this, he subconsciously felt that something was wrong. This person's words made the others laugh again. What 174? Now that 3 have died, we should be left with 171 people. Brother, are you so afraid that you don't know how to count? The latter was just ridiculing to take the opportunity to ease the hostile atmosphere. But when he heard this, the meticulous warrior suddenly exclaimed, No, it's not 171. It's obviously 172. If you don't believe me, use your spiritual sense to count. Shua. There were a few nosy warriors who quickly scanned everyone in the cave with their spiritual sense. Their faces instantly turned pale. How could this be? We clearly remember that there were 174 people who entered the cave. How could there be one more person? Who all sneaked in? Boom, boom, boom. Countless spiritual senses crazily intertwined and collided in the cave. Suspicious gazes looked at everyone in the surroundings, but no one discovered anything unusual. Those who could enter the cave were all in groups of 3 to 5. There was no one who was alone. Among them, there were a few heaven's prides from various empires. Zhou Jun was even a young king. With so many experts, any stranger would have nowhere to hide. No one discovered anything unusual. That was just a false alarm. You're scaring me to death. Please don't joke around, okay? Really, the God burial ground is incomparably dangerous. Who would joke around like this? It's making us nervous. Many people gradually let down their guard. At this moment, a sudden exclamation came from the crowd. No, Brother Nyo, one of our heaven's pride from the Hufang Empire is missing. What missing? There was an uproar. The Hufang Empire was one of the top empires in the central region. How could a heaven's pride from such an empire disappear just like that? The cave was only so big. How could a living person disappear just like that? Who's joking around like this? I'll kill him. A hot-tempered young warrior couldn't help but roar. At the same time, he was trying to boost his courage. No, it's true. Brother Nyo is missing. He was clearly standing beside us just now. How could he disappear all of a sudden? Brother Nyo, where are you? Don't scare us. The Hufang Empire's warrior shouted. However, the cave was only so big, and there were only so many people. The Brother Nyo they were talking about was like a stone sinking into the ocean, completely disappearing from the cave. No one saw him if he was alive, and no corpse if he was dead. Hiss, seeing the anxious expressions of the warriors of the Huya Empire, did not seem to be fake. The faces of the warriors in the cave, including Zhou Jun, were all pale and terrified. The total number of warriors that entered the cave was 174. When they first counted, there was an extra one. Now that they counted again, there was one less. Who could explain such a strange phenomenon? Could it be that there's a hidden monster in this cave that we don't know about? Impossible. Before we came in, the elders said that we must go up the mountain when it's dark. As long as we hide in the cave, we'll be safe in the morning. Then how do we explain the one more person and one less person? Chapter 995. It's him. It's him. Yes, count again. The young warriors in the cave all spread out their divine senses and started counting again. 1, 2, 10, 100. 168, 169. Wait, how can there be only 169? When we counted just now, there were 170. How can there be one less? All the martial artists present were shocked. They were all geniuses of their respective empires, but they had never encountered such a strange thing. Everyone was clearly standing in the same spot, not making a move and even staring at each other. However, two living people just disappeared in front of their eyes for no reason. Monster. There's a monster in this cave. What kind of monster is that? I think someone is playing tricks on us. They used a method that we don't know to assassinate the two of them and cause us to panic. Those who could participate in the Heavenly Supreme battle were not mediocre. Compared to ghosts and gods, they believed that there was an enemy in the dark who was eliminating dissidents. For a time, the martial artists in the cave looked at everyone with an inexplicable hostility. Many people, under this pressure, even forgot about Yi Fei, who was waiting outside the cave. They were only on guard against each other, looking around for any suspicious targets. No one was willing to die here for no reason. Zhou Jun was no exception. No one noticed that when he heard that two people had disappeared for no reason. Zhou Jun's face turned incomparably pale. He subconsciously looked down at his injured right foot. There was once a piece of flesh on his foot that had been cut off by Yi Fei's sword. This was an ordinary injury that a powerful martial artist could recover from by taking healing medicine. But Zhou Jun's injury was different. When Yi Fei had cut off a piece of his flesh, the sky had gradually darkened due to the severity of his injury. Along the way, Zhou Jun couldn't care less about healing his injuries. He could only run as fast as he could, arriving at the mountain peak before the sky turned dark. Only then did he notice that monstrous red hair had grown out of his injured leg. Zhou Jun was so scared that he didn't dare to make a sound, nor did he dare to treat his injury in front of everyone. Although he was also a young king-level warrior, his strength was only at the bottom of the list. Facing a few dozen earth-shattering supreme experts, Zhou Jun didn't care. However, facing over 100 earth-shattering supreme experts, Once they found out that he had been infected by the filthy things in the land of buried gods, they would definitely join forces to force Zhou Jun down the mountain. In order to survive, Zhou Jun could only endure. On one hand, he maintained his status as a young king, intimidating everyone. On the other hand, he secretly wrapped his red-furred thigh with a thick cotton cloth. Because of Zhou Jun's strength, the young martial artist in the cave only knew that Zhou Jun might have been injured. What they didn't know was that Zhou Jun's injured leg was already covered in red hair. What was even more frightening was that these red hairs were still falling. As time passed, they fell to the ground one by one and then disappeared without a trace. Zhou Jun originally thought that this was a good thing, but now it seemed that this was a big disaster. Zhou Jun's heart was suddenly filled with deep regret. If he hadn't tried to curry favor with a Saint Academy teacher like Lu Ming and secretly dealt with Yi Fei, how could he, a young king-level warrior, end up in such a situation where he would rather die than live? Yi Fei. Zhou Jun's face twisted. He didn't have the guts to blame Lu Ming. Instead, he put all his hatred on Yi Fei's head. Outside the cave. What's going on? Why don't you open the formation and let me in? Yi Fei didn't know about the strange scene in the cave. However, the people inside actually blocked the cave and didn't let him in. This made Yi Fei faintly angry. The cave isn't yours. We all came here to seek refuge. Why can you all go in, but I can't? Yeah, that person hasn't left yet. Hearing Yi Fei's voice, the martial artists in the cave who were ready to fight suddenly remembered that there was still someone outside. Zhou Jun's heart moved. No one here was mediocre. There were only so many people in the cave. If everyone suspected each other like this, it wouldn't take long for someone to suspect him. Although Zhou Jun was strong, he didn't have the confidence to face hundreds of angry genius martial artists. The only thing he could do now was to find a scapegoat. The appearance of Yi Fei outside gave Zhou Jun hope of getting away with it. Therefore, when everyone still couldn't make up their minds, Zhou Jun suddenly pointed at the crystal wall and reminded everyone in a deep voice, "Everyone, don't be fooled by him. How can there be such a coincidence? When he comes, someone goes missing. It's not a person outside, it's definitely a monster. We can't let this monster rush in. Fellow Taoists, who will go out with the young King Zhou Jun to kill the monster outside and protect everyone's safety?" Zhou Jun's words were filled with righteous indignation. His righteousness shocked many cultivators on the spot, and they cast admiring gazes at Zhou Jun. As Zhou Jun spoke, he deliberately spread out his voice. In his mind, the person outside was just an ordinary martial artist. Once he knew that a young King Zhou Jun wanted to kill him, he would be scared witless and run for his life. In this way, it was even more certain that the person outside was a monster. No one would suspect Zhou Jun. As for this scapegoat, he can only blame his bad luck. Who told him to be a person of the Snow Wind Empire? Zhou Jun, let him be a scapegoat because I think highly of him. Humph. Zhou Jun couldn't help but think proudly. Now, he was waiting for the martial artists outside to hear his identity and be scared witless. Hearing Zhou Jun's voice, Yi Fei suddenly sneered. He had clearly misunderstood. He thought that Zhou Jun had discovered his identity and deliberately didn't let him in. After all, Zhou Jun is known as the king of 100 transformations. It's not strange for him to see through my disguise. Since you won't let me in, I'll just fight my way in. Thinking that Zhou Jun had seen through his disguise, Yi Fei simply reverted to his original appearance. He ignored the array at the entrance and walked into the cave with large strides. Rumble. The array in the cave was activated. Countless ice swords, fire sabers, lightning, and hidden weapons crazily smashed towards Yi Fei. Yi Fei remained unmoved and continued walking forward with large strides. His body released a resplendent sword light. At the same time, sword mountains rose from the ground and smashed towards the various restrictions in the surroundings. No matter how strong a restriction was, there was a limit to what it could withstand. Yi Fei's attack was comparable to a martial sage's. It was clearly not something that an ordinary absolute land realm array could block. Yi Fei was like a hot knife through butter. He forcefully endured the endless attacks of the array and stepped into the cave. Boom! Seeing this scene with their own eyes, the martial artists in the cave all felt their scalps go numb. Zhou Jun was also stunned. He never dreamed that the martial artist outside was actually Yi Fei in disguise. At the same time, Yi Fei's physical body was so strong that he could forcefully charge through the killing array outside without suffering any injuries. Then, Zhou Jun became ecstatic. He immediately thought of a vicious plan. Not only could he divert everyone's attention, he could also take the opportunity to kill Yi Fei. Seeing Yi Fei walk into the cave, Zhou Jun immediately pointed at Yi Fei and roared like a madman. Chapter 996. You are doomed. Kill, kill, kill. Zhou Jun howled like a ghost. The red hair on his legs was tormenting him to the point of insanity. Yi Fei's appearance caused the fear in Zhou Jun's heart to turn into a frenzy before his death. Kill. Follow me and kill this monster. Not only did Zhou Jun attack, but he also incited the surrounding warriors to attack Yi Fei with him. Although many warriors felt that something was amiss, they all had the mentality of following the crowd. Everyone had just experienced a strange incident in the cave, and then Yi Fei broke the array and barged in. If it were anyone else, they would feel a certain amount of enmity towards Yi Fei. However, the disappearance of their companions in the cave and Zhou Jun's madness of setting an example finally caused the hundreds of cultivators in the cave to become overflowing with killing intent. Yes, kill him. Kill this monster and avenge Brother Nyo. TSK, where did this monster come from? No matter what you are, I will kill you today. These people's words made Yi Fei feel that something was amiss. What monster? Zhou Jun actually has such a method to incite everyone here to deal with me? Yi Fei's face flashed with a look of doubt. But before he could ponder for too long, Zhou Jun and the attacks of over 100 martial artists were all aimed at him. Zhou Jun's gloomy face flashed with the joy of having his scheme succeed. Ha, Yi Fei, let's see how you die this time. Get out of my way. Boom! At the entrance of the cave, Yi Fei's expression was cold. The sword light around his body suddenly turned into a purplish-gold Taiji radiance that rose like the sun. This was the first time Yi Fei had attacked with his full strength. What appeared on his body was no longer a purplish-gold Taiji circle, but a huge Taiji diagram. One purple and one gold. It was full of mystery and boundless power. Rumble. The attacks of the hundreds of absolute land almighties quickly drowned out the Taiji diagram. But soon, among the hundreds of martial Dao radiances, there was a purplish-gold radiance that shone in all directions. It perfectly blocked all the attacks of the hundreds of absolute land almighties. Yi Fei once again felt how powerful the power of despair was. This kind of power was enough to make anyone who faced it feel despair. At this moment, the hundreds of warriors looked at Yi Fei with despair. Although they hadn't used their full strength, it was still the combined attack of hundreds of geniuses. That kind of attack was enough to instantly kill a young King Realm expert. However, Yi Fei had only opened up a strange pattern and blocked all of their attacks, including the attack of a young King Realm expert. Zhou Jun was scared silly on the spot. Other than shock, there was also a deep fear in his eyes. In his fear, he did not realize that the cotton cloth tied around his leg had loosened as he attacked. Countless blood-red hairs, like threads, quickly grew out from the gaps in his cotton cloth and then fell to the ground. Yi Fei saw the strange red hair on Zhou Jun's leg at a glance. He suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. This corpse chi could actually grow on a human's body? Zhou Jun, you've actually been infected by these red hairs. No wonder you attacked me so crazily. Unfortunately, you're still too weak. Boom! Yi Fei's words were like a heavy hammer that smashed into the hearts of many warriors. No one who could enter the cave was weak. Following Yi Fei's gaze, many of them saw the strange red hairs on Zhou Jun's leg. If they still didn't understand that Zhou Jun was the monster hiding in the cave, then they might as well die. Zhou Jun, it's actually you. Not only did you use us, but you also want us to kill each other? Everyone stay away from Zhou Jun. He has already been infected by the filthy things in the land of buried gods. He is no longer human. He will soon become a monster. After recovering from their shock, the martial artists that were originally surrounding Zhou Jun frantically retreated. This was because Zhou Jun had suddenly gone crazy. He did not look at anyone. His blood-red eyes only stared coldly at Yi Fei. Yi Fei. Zhou Jun's voice became very strange. It was as if he had just learned how to speak. Red hairs grew crazily on his leg. Soon, Zhou Jun was covered in a strange red-haired monster. With incomparable agility, Zhou Jun frantically pounced at Yi Fei. Damn, this Zhou Jun is indeed the king of transformation. Seeing Zhou Jun suddenly turn from a human into a monster, Yi Fei was dumbfounded. He had fought with this kind of red-haired monster before. Even the purple gold taiji couldn't do anything to it. The only person who could deal with this monster was probably Xiao Chao. "All right, Xiao Chao." Pa. Yi Fei's mind moved. He didn't need to communicate with Xiao Chao at all. Xiao Chao, who was already prepared, had already whipped out a whip from her beastmark space. It happened to hit Zhou Jun, who was rushing over. Strangely enough, Yi Fei had used all of his methods but still couldn't deal with the red-furred monster. Yet, Xiao Chao had only lashed out with her whip, and Zhou Jun, who was covered in red fur, actually let out a terrified scream. Woo-woo. Zhou Jun's body was struck to the ground by the vine whip. As his body twitched, a blood-red whirlwind suddenly rushed out of Zhou Jun's injured leg. So that's how it is. This monster can possess people. Unfortunately, it has met its nemesis. Yi Fei rushed forward, wanting Xiao Chao to catch this strange red-haired whirlwind. However, the monster hidden in the whirlwind was very vigilant. Before Yi Fei could get close, a pair of cold eyes stared at Yi Fei with hatred. With a swoosh, the whirlwind disappeared from the cave without a trace. This scene made the scalps of all the warriors present tingle. Previously, 2 of our companions disappeared silently like this. Needless to say, it must be the doing of the monster that Zhou Jun brought back. No wonder this person can go up the mountain after dark. He actually has a treasure that can restrain monsters. Xiao Chao had lashed out with the vine whip through the space of the beast mark. In addition, Yi Fei had intentionally strengthened the light of the purple gold taiji on his body. The martial artists in the cave didn't notice Xiao Cao's existence. Instead, they subconsciously thought that Yi Fei had some kind of treasure that could restrain the monster. Their eyes lit up, and many of them revealed looks of envy and greed. Zhou Jun, who had fallen to the ground, was also stunned. After the monster left his body, he regained his consciousness. However, he seemed to have fallen seriously ill, and his lifespan had been severely depleted. Zhou Jun was originally very young and handsome. However, at this moment, wrinkles had appeared on Zhou Jun's face, and his hair had turned much whiter. Even so, Zhou Jun still cried tears of joy. After all, when Zhou Jun was infected by the filthy things in the land of buried gods, he was on the verge of despair. In the end, Xiao Chao's whip pulled him back from hell. Zhou Jun was so happy that he cried and laughed. He screamed and made a fuss. Many warriors who saw this were secretly alarmed. They thought that Yi Fei's whip had struck Zhou Jun silly. Yi Fei's face twitched. Who would have thought that Xiao Chao's whip would coincidentally save Zhou Jun's life? It had to be said that this person was really lucky. However, Zhou Jun could be spared from death, but he could not escape punishment. Chapter 997. Begging for mercy. Yi Fei's kick finally brought Zhou Jun back to his senses. Only now did he realize that it was Yi Fei who had removed the filthy thing from his body. However, Zhou Jun didn't feel any gratitude in his heart. Instead, there was a faint trace of resentment in his eyes. If it wasn't for Yi Fei, all of his subordinates would have died. If it wasn't for Yi Fei, he would have been possessed by the filthy thing from the land of buried gods. He would have been better off dead. Sometimes people were like this. They didn't know how to think about their own mistakes. Instead, they were used to blaming others for their misfortune. Zhou Jun roared at Yi Fei with resentment. Yi Fei, kill me if you have the guts. Our Tianqing Empire is a second-tier empire in the Central Plains. It's at least 100 times stronger than your Snow Wind Empire. My uncle is even the prime minister of the empire. My family can even manage the imperial court with the emperor in the Tianqing Empire. What? Your back is so terrifying. Doesn't that mean that if I make a move against you, I will bring a calamity to the Snow Wind Empire? Yi Fei was incomparably shocked. He was so frightened that he couldn't help but take a step back. Zhou Jun was very satisfied with Yi Fei's performance. As the young king of a second-tier empire, he didn't even spare a glance for the Snow Wind Empire, let alone Yi Fei, who came from the Snow Wind Empire. He simply lay on the ground and coldly stared at Yi Fei. He snorted, "You're smart. If you don't want to get into trouble, then help me up and apologize to me in front of everyone." Apologize? Sure, I'll apologize right now. Yi Fei nodded seriously. The Imperial Saint's sword in his hand suddenly flashed with a cold light. With a plop, it stabbed into Zhou Jun's injured right leg. Zhou Jun cried out miserably. A large piece of flesh had already been cut off by Yi Fei. Now that he was stabbed by Yi Fei, it was like salt was sprinkled on the wound. The intense pain caused Zhou Jun's proud face to distort. "Yi Fei, you dared to injure me in anger. Do you know who I am? Do you know what kind of calamity this will bring to the Snow Wind Empire? Don't forget, the Snow Wind Empire is only a third-tier empire." Zhou Jun couldn't understand. A cultivator from a third-tier empire actually dared to torture a king from a second-tier empire like him. What kind of heart did this person eat to be so bold? Without pulling out his sacred sword, Yi Fei let the Imperial Saint's sword nail Zhou Jun to the ground of the cave. Then he nodded and said, "Of course I know who you are. Aren't you just a young king from a second-tier empire? So what if I kill you? In any case, I'm from the outer seas. The survival of the Snow Wind Empire has nothing to do with me. It just so happens that I have a debt to settle with the Snow Wind Emperor, Jiang Qianren. Why don't I kill you directly and use your head to infuriate the Tianqing Empire so that they can help me destroy the Snow Wind Empire?" The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this plan was feasible. Yi Fei was actually seriously considering this possibility. Hearing his words, Zhou Jun was scared out of his wits. Originally, Zhou Jun had mentioned his identity in order to intimidate Yi Fei so that he could find a chance to live. However, he didn't expect that Yi Fei already had a grudge with the Snow Wind Empire. Not only did his words not threaten Yi Fei, they even provided Yi Fei with a vicious plan to take revenge on the Snow Wind Empire. "Young Master Yi, please spare my life. Previously, I was blinded by greed and shouldn't have attacked you. Now, I've completely realized my mistake. I'm willing to make up for it. I only ask that you spare my life." The background that he was so proud of wasn't able to scare Yi Fei. Instead, it brought about a fatal disaster. Zhou Jun was so scared that his face was as white as a sheet of paper. The other cultivators in the cave also widened their eyes. They couldn't believe the scene in front of them. A dignified young king had actually disregarded his identity and took the initiative to beg Yi Fei for mercy. "You're a young king, yet you're actually begging me for mercy. Is this really okay?" Yi Fei looked at Zhou Jun with ridicule. Zhou Jun's face turned red. Shame and fear intertwined on his face. In the end, between glory and life, Zhou Jun still chose the latter. "Young Master Yi, I'm begging for mercy. Tell me, what do I have to do to obtain your forgiveness? I think that strange treasure mask you're wearing is pretty good." Yi Fei smiled at Zhou Jun. However, in Zhou Jun's eyes, his smile was even scarier than the devil. Zhou Jun's red face instantly turned pale again. One must know that the reason why he could become a young king was mostly due to that strange treasure mask. Relying on that face, Zhou Jun could easily infiltrate his opponent's empire. He could approach his opponent and spy on them. If his opponent was weaker than him, Zhou Jun would immediately challenge him. If his opponent was stronger than him, Zhou Jun would immediately switch to another empire's strongest genius and continue to spy on them. It was also because of this method that Zhou Jun could have a smooth journey. He defeated the geniuses of 10 empires in a row and obtained the title of Young King. It was also because of this reason that Zhou Jun knew that it was very difficult for him to enter the strongest divine martial sacred academy with his strength at the bottom of the kings. Therefore, he thought of using Yi Fei's head to curry favor with Lu Ming and Bailey Zhun to obtain the qualification to enter the sacred academy. If he lost the strange treasure mask, the blow would definitely take away half of his life. How could Zhou Jun be willing to accept this? He roared, "Yi Fei, don't go too far." "I'm going too far? You brought people to ambush me on the bloody land. Isn't that going too far? You bewitched everyone to attack me in the cave. Isn't that going too far? I'm just like this. If you go too far, then I won't be polite to you. Now let me ask you, will you hand over that strange treasure mask?" Puff. While speaking, Yi Fei had already pulled out the Imperial Saint sword and was about to cripple Zhou Jun's right leg. Zhou Jun was so scared that his face was distorted. He hurriedly screamed, "Don't cripple me. I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you." When he had no choice but to give the strange treasure mask to Yi Fei, Zhou Jun was so regretful that he shed tears. "I've given you the treasure. Can you let me go now? A strange treasure mask can only make me put down my hatred for you. It's not enough for me to completely forgive you." Yi Fei took the strange treasure mask and probed with a smile. "What? I've even given you the most precious treasure. Isn't it enough for you to forgive me?" Hearing this, Zhou Jun's face was completely distorted. Then, the Imperial Saint sword pierced into Zhou Jun's left leg and nailed him to the ground again. Yi Fei said coldly, "Zhou Jun, do you think I'm so easy to forgive? You've dealt with me twice. The strange treasure mask can only make me forgive you once. The second time, tell me, what can you do to make me forgive you? Actually, I think the space belt you're wearing is pretty good." "What? You?" Zhou Jun was so angry that he almost fainted. It wasn't enough to rob him of his strange treasure. Now, he wasn't even going to let go of his space belt. This was clearly robbing him clean. He glared at Yi Fei fiercely and roared, "Yi Fei, you actually dare to toy with me. You never intended to let me go." "That's right, I did toy with you. So what? I have no enmity with you, but you tried to kill me twice. It's not that I'm cruel, it's just that you're too greedy. Your life is the bottom line for my forgiveness." Yi Fei's eyes turned cold. He didn't say anything more to Zhou Jun. With a flash of his sword, a red line of blood appeared on Zhou Jun's neck. "You." Zhou Jun clutched his neck as he stared at Yi Fei. He was filled with regret and despair. Finally, he collapsed to the ground in fear. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.